Breathe slowly now. Let your shoulders soften, and imagine that we are sitting together by the glow of a small oil lamp. The night air is warm but not heavy, the kind of warmth that feels like a blanket you never need to fold. Outside, a faint wind brushes across the reeds, carried with the scent of river water and the hushed murmur of life slowing down. I want to tell you a story tonight, one that has traveled across centuries, a story that blends myth with history, longing with invention and whispers with wonder. It is the story of Babylon and the fabled hanging gardens, a wonder of the world that may or may not have existed exactly as described, yet has lived so vividly in human imagination that it feels as real as stone beneath your hand. But here's a soft twist you may not expect. Within the first few breaths of this story, I must tell you, no one alive today can say with certainty whether the hanging gardens ever stood in Babylon at all. Ancient writers describe them in detail. Terraces of green, water lifted high above the earth, plants cascading like waterfalls of leaves. But archaeologists searching Babylon's ruins have found only fragments, never proof. And so, the gardens float in a liminal space between history and dream. Stay with me, because that is what makes them perfect for sleep. They belong both to the world we can touch and the one we imagine. Let us first walk into Babylon itself. The city rose along the Euphrates River, its walls vast, its gates gleaming. The most famous, the Ishtar Gate, shimmer with deep blue glazed bricks, lions and dragons marching proudly across its face. Imagine those tiles catching the light of the morning sun, their surfaces smooth, their colors rich as lapis lazuli. Through this gate pass merchants with camels, priests with incense, children laughing as they skipped across dusty stones. The streets wound inward to courtyards, markets, and the grand ziggurat that towered like a mountain of brick. Every breath of Babylon was full of motion, yet under the night sky, the city slowed, exhaled, and grew quiet. Pause for a moment. As you picture the city, let your own breath follow its rhythm, busy in the day, soft and slow at night. Babylon is no longer a ruin in your mind, but a living place, filled with the sounds of sandals on stone, the rustle of fabric, the faint trickle of water through canals. The hanging gardens, as told by ancient voices, were said to rise somewhere within the city. Some believe King Nebuchadnezzar II built them for his queen, who longed for the mountains of her homeland. Others thought they were not in Babylon at all, but in Nineveh, described by travelers and attributed wrongly to Nebuchadnezzar. Whatever their origin, the image remains. Massive terraces stacked like steps to heaven, each level filled with trees, vines, and flowers, their roots cradled in deep layers of soil. Water lifted by ingenious devices flowed downward in streams, cooling the air, feeding the greenery, and making Babylon bloom in the desert. As you close your eyes, imagine standing at the base of these terraces. The stone beneath you is warm, but from above drifts a cool mist of water. The scent is lush, almost tropical, the air alive with green. Vines dangle softly. Leaves catch the moonlight, and you feel as though you are in a dream made real. You look upward, terrace after terrace, and the stars seem to mingle with the branches above. Stay with me, because in a moment we will climb those terraces together. But for now, let's linger at the thought that something so magnificent might never have existed at all. Isn't it curious how the absence of proof can sometimes make a story even stronger? Because then it becomes ours to imagine, ours to shape, ours to bring to life in the soft theater of the mind. Let us turn gently to the voices that first described these gardens. Strabo, the geographer, spoke of them centuries after they were said to be built. He wrote of vaulted terraces, raised high upon stone, watered by machines hidden from the eye. Diodorus Siculus, another ancient writer, told of their beauty, their harmony, their wonder. Each account was second-hand, woven from the words of travelers who had themselves heard it from others. The gardens were never described by Babylonian scribes on clay tablets, never shown in reliefs carved by their own artists. And yet, the Greeks and Romans believed, repeating the vision until it became fixed as one of the 7 wonders of the world. Pause again. Imagine listening to such travelers by firelight, their voices low, their words slow, describing a city of gardens rising into the night. You do not question whether it is fact or fancy. You simply listen, letting the rhythm of their words carry you into the picture. The gardens, whether real or imagined, carry with them themes that are sleep-safe and deeply human. The longing for home, the effort to create beauty in an unforgiving place, the marvel of human ingenuity. A queen far from her mountains might have looked upon the flat plain of Babylon and sighed, missing the slopes, the trees, the streams of her youth. A king, hearing her sorrow, might have commanded builders to raise a mountain of stone, to plant upon it a new paradise. Love, longing, and creativity twined together like vines on stone. Whether it happened or not, the image remains tender and compelling. Now let us climb. You step slowly onto first terrace, your hand brushing against stone warmed by the day. Ferns spring up beside you, their fronds soft against your fingertips. The sound of water trickles from above, falling in sheets that glimmer like silver threads in the lamplight. You ascend a ramp to the next level, where trees spread wide, their branches heavy with fruit. The air grows cooler, shaded by leaves, fragrant with blossoms. You pause to breathe deeply, letting the perfume settle into your lungs. Higher still, vines sway in the night breeze, and as you climb, the city below fades into a hum, distant and muted. Stay with me, because soon we will reach the top, but first, look around. Each terrace is alive, each corner green, each step a marvel. You feel no rush. You feel calm, as though time itself is slow for you to take in every detail. At the top, you stand upon a high platform, the Euphrates glimmering in the distance, the city spread below like a quilt of shadow and light. Around you, trees rustle softly, streams weave through the terraces, stars shine overhead. It feels like standing in a dream between earth and sky, a place at once natural and crafted, timeless and fleeting. Whether real or imagined, the hanging gardens invite you not to doubt, but to rest in the possibility. Pause one last time here in the hook. You have seen Babylon, walked through its gates, climbed its terraces, breathed its air. You have learned that the hanging gardens might never have been built, and yet their beauty has endured in human memory longer than any stone could last. And that is the gentle twist I promised. The wonder lies not in what we can prove, but in what we can imagine. As you breathe slowly now, preparing for the chapters ahead, know this. In Chapter 1, we will begin at the foundations of Babylon itself, tracing its daily life, its riverbanks, its homes and markets, so that when we return again to gardens, they will bloom all the more vividly. For now, let the vision linger. Terraces of green in the desert night, water falling softly, stars above, and a story that whispers across time. The city of Babylon begins not with towers and gardens, but with the river. The Euphrates flowed broad and steady, its banks lined with reeds that swayed in the breeze, its waters carrying silt that nourished the land. Long before the walls rose, before the gates gleamed, people settled here to draw water, to fish, to plant barley in the soil that stayed damp after floods. Imagine the sound of sandals in wet earth, the steady splash of a jar dipping into the river, the hum of voices along the shore. Life began in the ordinary, and out of the ordinary grew the extraordinary. As you stand now on the bank in your mind, let the sound of water steady your breath. Each inhale is like the river's rise, each exhale like its slow release. Babylon may seem distant in time, but rivers are timeless. The same rhythm flows through you. Stay with me, because in a moment we will step into the streets of Babylon itself. But first, feel how the river carried more than water. It carried clay, shaped into bricks that would build walls. It carried reeds, woven into mats for floors and roofs. It carried fish, food for families, trade for markets. The Euphrates was not only a river. It was a lifeline, the artery that pulsed through Babylon's heart. Now, let us walk inward from the riverbank. You pass along a dusty path that leads toward the city's walls. Ahead, the massive gates rise, their bricks glaze a deep blue, shining in the sun even at dawn. Carved upon them are lions, dragons, bulls, symbols of protection, guardians at the threshold. As you walk closer, you see merchants leading donkeys laden with goods, priests in long robes carrying incense, children skipping, their laughter echoing against the walls. The gate does not feel forbidding. It feels like an embrace, a wide opening into life. Pause here. Imagine the feel of those bricks beneath your fingertips, smooth and cool. You look up, and the gate towers above, yet you feel safe, not small. You feel invited inward, passing through the Ishtar Gate. You step onto Processional Way, a broad street paved with large stone slabs. It stretches long and straight, lined with walls decorated with glazed tiles of lions walking proudly, their manes stylized, their paws lifted mid-step. As you walk, your sandals tap against stone, steady and calm. Around you, the city begins to reveal itself. Stalls where vendors sell bread still warm from the oven, jars of dates glistening in the light, baskets of onions, garlic, herbs. The air smells rich, a mix of food, earth, and incense. Voices rise and fall, blending into a low sound that feels like the hum of bees, steady, soothing. Stay with me, because soon we will sit in one of these courtyards. But first let us walk deeper. Homes of mud brick line the side streets, their doors opening into small courtyards shaded by cloths stretched overhead. Families gather here after work. Children playing with clay dolls, women grinding grain on stone slabs, men mending tools. The life of Babylon was not only in its temples or palaces. It was in these homes, where meals were cooked, stories told, prayers whispered. Imagine stepping into one of these courtyards now. The floor is hard-packed earth, swept clean. In the corner stands a small oven, glowing faintly as bread bakes inside. A woman kneels at a grinding stone, her arms moving in rhythm as she crushes grain into flour. A child hums a tune, play with a carved toy made of clay. A man repairs a sandal, his hand steady, his movement sure. They look up, smile, invite you to sit. A bowl of dates is passed to you, their sweetness lingering on your tongue. You feel not like a stranger, but like a guest. Pause here. Feel the warmth of that welcome, the softness of belonging even in a distant time. The courtyard is not grand, but it is enough, a world of its own. Now, let us walk to the market. It is larger, louder, but not chaotic. The stalls are shaded by woven mats, the ground trampled smooth by thousands of feet. Merchants call softly, offering sesame oil, barley, fabrics dyed in deep reds and blues. The air smells of roasted lamb, honey cakes, garlic sizzling in oil. You hear the bleating of goats, the bray of donkeys, the murmur of bargaining voices. Children dart between stalls, chasing each other, laughing. Yet even in this movement, the pace feels steady, unhurried. Babylon was a city of great size, but life moved in rhythms familiar and human. Stay with me, because soon we will climb to the ziggurat. But first let us linger here in the market. Imagine running your hand along a smooth jar clay, its surface cool, its shape perfect. Imagine tasting a small piece of bread dipped in oil, warm and rich. Imagine watching a scribe at a stall, carving wedges into a tablet to record a sale, his reed stylus tapping with precision. The market is more than trade. It is memory made tangible, community made visible. Now, let us turn toward the ziggurat, the towering temple of Marduk, Babylon's chief god. Its base is massive, its terraces rising like steps into the sky. The bricks glow warm in the sun, each layer precise, each level vast. As you climb the broad stairways, the city spreads out below, its streets like threads, its walls stretching toward the horizon. At the top, a shrine gleams, small compared to the base but powerful in presence. Priests move quietly, offering incense, chanting prayers. The air is still, heavy with sacredness. Pause again. Imagine standing there, the wind brushing your face, the sound of the city below softened by distance. You look across the land, fields, rivers, houses, and you feel what Babylonians must have felt, that their city was not only their home but the center of the world. And here is a gentle twist. While the ziggurat seemed eternal, built for the gods, it too was made of clay and brick, vulnerable to time and rain. It had to be rebuilt, renewed, restored. Even the grandest monuments needed care, just as homes did, just as gardens would. Permanence was never certain, but continuity came from attention, from love, from work done day after day. Stay with me, because in a moment we will return to the vision of the hanging gardens. But first, remember this. Babylon's greatness was not only in wonders or walls. It was in its people. Farmers by the river, bakers in courtyards, merchants in markets, priests in temples, children at play, each one a thread, each one part of the fabric. As the night deepens, imagine the city under moonlight. The gates gleam faintly. The processional way lies quiet. The courtyards hum with lullabies sung to children. The ovens cool. The lamps glow low. Babylon rests, but does not vanish. It breathes softly like you now. Inhale, exhale. The city sleeps, and you sleep with it. This is where Chapter 1 closes gently, with the city settled into its rhythm. And in Chapter 2, we will step closer to the hanging gardens themselves, to the myths, the mechanics, and the mysteries of their creation. But for now, let Babylon rest in your mind, its walls solid, its people alive, its air calm. The story of Babylon glimmers most brightly in the memory of its wonder, the hanging gardens. You have walked already through its gates, its streets, its markets, and its courtyards. You have stood at the base of its towering ziggurat and looked across the fields and rivers. But now, softly, let us step toward the vision that has lingered in human imagination for over 2,000 years. Were they real, these gardens of green rising from stone, or were they dreamed into being by travelers who long for paradise in the desert? Tonight, we will not demand certainty. We will let the question itself be part of the beauty. Imagine the air of Babylon in midsummer. The heat of the day lingers on walls and stones, shimmering in the air like waves upon the sand. And then, sudden coolness. You step into a shaded space where water drips and runs, where leaves rustle softly above your head. The shift is startling but gentle, like slipping into a pool after walking beneath the sun. This was the promise of the hanging gardens. If they indeed stood here, an oasis, a mountain of green rays into the very heart of the city. Pause here. Feel the air on your skin, the relief of shade after brightness. You breathe slowly, deeper now, as though the leaves themselves release calm into the night. The gardens were said to have been built by Nebuchadnezzar II, who reigned in the 6th century BCE. His queen, Amytas of Media, came from the mountains, where tall trees crowned the slopes and streams ran down rocky valleys. In Babylon, she looked upon flat plains, dry winds, endless horizons. To soothe her longing, Nebuchadnezzar, so the story goes, commanded his builders to raise terraces of stone, each planted with trees and vines, watered by machines that lifted water from the river below. Whether it was love or legend, the tale endures. A king who made a mountain bloom in the desert for the sake of his queen. Stay with me, because soon we will climb into the gardens themselves. But first, notice the tenderness hidden in this tale. Empires often built monuments for power, for conquest, for pride. But the hanging gardens, if they existed, were said to have been built for love, a gift not to gods, but to a woman longing for home. This softens the image, makes it more intimate, more human. Now, step into the first terrace. Beneath your feet are great stone slabs, layered with reed mats, bitumen, and thick soil. The engineers of Babylon knew the burden of water, the weight of earth, the strain upon stone. They crafted each level carefully, supporting trees that reached into the sky. Around you grow date palms, figs, pomegranates. Their leaves whisper, their fruit glimmers in the lamplight. The air is thick with fragrance, a perfume of blossoms carried on a night breeze. Water runs beside you in channels lined with stone, trickling softly, feeding the roots. Pause again. Imagine running your hand along the bark of a tree here, its roughness solid, its branches reaching above you. You pluck a fig, its skin soft, its sweetness lingering on your tongue. This is not desert. This is paradise. Stay with me, because soon we will reach the ingenious heart of the gardens, the lifting of water. But let us first linger in the greenery itself. Imagine vines cascading down the edge of the terrace, leaves rustling as they brush against one another. Picture roses blooming, their petals soft against your fingertips. Hear the quiet hum of insects, the flutter of a bird roosting in branches above. Every detail feels alive, yet carefully placed, a harmony between human design and nature's beauty. How is the water lifted? Ancient writers speak of devices hidden from view. Screws, chains, buckets moved by hand or animal. Perhaps they built great wheels that turned endlessly, raising water in clay jars that spilled into channels above. The mechanism remains a mystery, like the gardens themselves. But one thing is certain. To imagine water climbing upward, defying gravity, cascading down again into soil and roots, is to marvel at human ingenuity. Pause here. Listen to the water in your mind, dripping, splashing, trickling. Its sound is steady, calming, like rain upon a roof or a fountain in the night. You are safe here, bathed in its rhythm. And here is a twist. Some scholars now believe the gardens were never in Babylon at all, but in Nineveh, built by the Assyrian king Sennacherib. His palace records speak of water systems, aqueducts, gardens fed by rivers. Could the ancient writers have confused one city for another? Could Babylon's fame have swallowed the memory of Nineveh's wonder? The mystery adds another layer of softness. The gardens may never be fixed to one place. They float between cities, between words, between memories. Stay with me, because soon we will return to Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon. But for now, let yourself enjoy this ambiguity. Isn't it gentle to know that some wonders do not need to be pinned down, that they can live both in one place and another, both in history and in imagination? Now let us climb higher. You walk a ramp that curves gently upward, your hand trailing against stone. Each level is cooler, greener, more fragrant than the one before. Olive trees grow in shaded corners, their silver leaves gleaming. Tall cypresses rise, their dark forms solemn and steady. Fruit trees bend under their bounty, apples, pears, apricots. You rest in their shade, a bench carved of stone beneath you. The trickle of water close at hand. Pause again. Imagine leaning back, closing your eyes, hearing the leaves stir overhead. You feel the air cool against your face, smell the perfume of blossoms, taste the sweetness of fruit. You could stay here forever. The gardens were more than beauty. They were also a statement of skill. To build such terraces, to lift such water, to sustain such greenery in the heart of the city, was to show mastery over nature itself. And yet, unlike walls or towers, this mastery did not seek to dominate but to nurture. The gardens were not a fortress. They were a refuge. They softened stone with green, heat with shade, noise with water. They reminded the people of Babylon that even in a desert, life could flourish in abundance. Stay with me, because soon we will stand upon the highest terrace. But let us pause once more to see the city from here. Look outward, beyond the walls. The plains stretch into distance, brown and dry under sun. Yet here within the city rises a mountain of green, trees taller than walls, vines spilling like waterfalls, terraces alive with fruit and flowers. It is as though another world has been built within the old, a dream inside reality. Now, ascend the final ramp. The highest terrace awaits, open to stars. A pavilion stands, shaded by cloth, its pillars carved with care. Around it, pools of water reflect the night sky, broken only by the ripple of fish beneath the surface. Trees encircle the space, their branches arching overhead like a living canopy. You stand at the center, the Euphrates flowing far below, the stars glimmering far above. Between earth and sky, the hanging gardens hold you, steady, timeless, dreamlike. Pause one last time. Imagine breathing here, slow and even, your body heavy, your mind calm. The sound of water, the scent of blossoms, the touch of stone, the shimmer of stars, all cradle you into stillness. And so, Chapter 2 closes gently. You have walked the terraces, heard the water, touched the leaves. You have learned that the gardens may have been built for love, or may have existed elsewhere, or may have lived only in imagination. But in all forms they endure not as certainty but as wonder. And in Chapter 3, we will step back from the terraces to see how the people of Babylon lived with them, how markets, festivals, and daily rituals reflected the presence of this marvel. For now, let the vision linger. Trees against stars, water against stone, dream against history. The hanging gardens may have risen high with terraces of stone and cascades of green, but their wonder did not live in isolation. They were not hidden away as some silent dream apart from daily life. They breathed into the rhythm of the city, shaping markets, guiding festivals, weaving themselves into the imagination of the people. Tonight, let us not only walk the gardens themselves, but wander through Babylon as it lived with them, as ordinary families saw them, as travelers described them, as children dreamed of them in sleep. Imagine first a view from Processional Way, that long, broad street paved in stone, lined with lions in glazed relief. As you walk its smooth length, you lift your eyes and see, rising beyond the rooftops, terraces covered in green. Palms sway against the sky, vines hang down in ribbons, flowers glimmer in the sun. For a city surrounded by desert plains, the sight must have felt miraculous. People selling bread and onions in the market would glance up and smile. Children carrying baskets of dates would point with excitement, and travelers would pause in awe, their journeys suddenly slowed by beauty. Pause here. Imagine yourself as one of those travelers, dusty from the road, weary from the sun. You step into Babylon and lift your gaze, and there before you is a mountain of gardens. Your breath slows, your weariness eases, your heart feels lighter. Stay with me, because soon we will see how festivals unfolded in the shadow of the gardens. But first, linger in the market below. Imagine walking among stalls shaded by reed mats, the air filled with scents of fresh bread, sesame oil, roasted lamb, figs and dates piled in baskets. Merchants call softly, women grind grain on stones, children dart between the stalls with laughter. And above it all, the terraces loom like a promise, like a reassurance that the city is abundant, flourishing, alive. The gardens, whether seen daily or only from afar, became part of the city's identity. Just as the Ishtar Gate declared power with its deep blue and golden lions, the gardens declared abundance. They told every visitor and every citizen that Babylon was not only strong but generous, not only defended but nurtured. Pause again. Imagine yourself biting into a date from the market, its sweetness rich, its flavor deep. As you chew, you glance upward at leaves moving in the breeze, vines swaying, blossoms glowing. The taste and the sight mingle, and you feel the whole city as one experience. Now, let us turn to the festivals. Babylon was alive with ritual, its year marked by celebrations that gathered thousands. The New Year festival, Akitu, was the most important, lasting 12 days each spring. Processions wound through the city, statues of gods carried on shoulders, hymns chanted in unison, incense burning thick in the air. And in those processions, as priests and citizens moved along the processional way, the hanging gardens stood watch. They were a backdrop, a presence, perhaps even a participant in the celebration. People looked upward at green terraces while offering prayers for renewal, for abundance, for blessing. Stay with me, because soon we will step into one of those festival nights. But first, let us imagine how the gardens themselves mirrored the festival's purpose. Spring meant new life, and the terraces overflowed with blossoms. Water ran fresh in channels, trees bore fruit, vines flourished. The city prayed for abundance, and the garden seemed to answer, silently affirming that renewal was possible. Now, picture the night of Akitu. Torches blaze along the processional way, the air heavy with smoke and song. Thousands gather, their voices rising as one, their steps moving in rhythm. You are there among them, your body swaying with the crowd, your voice humming along. And above, the gardens glow in firelight, their leaves shimmering, their water sparkling. It feels as though earth and heaven touch, as though the city itself breathes in unison. Pause again. Imagine the feeling in your chest, the hum of voices, the glow of torches, the sight of greenery against the night. You are not alone. You are part of something vast, yet gentle, safe, and unhurried. The gardens also lived in the minds of children. Imagine a child curled in a courtyard at night, listening to a story told by a grandmother. The tales of the gardens, of how the king built them for his queen, of how water flows upward as if by magic, of how trees and flowers live upon stone. The child listens with wide eyes, imagining walking there, imagining climbing to the top. In dreams, the terraces grow even higher, the flowers more colorful, the water more abundant. For children, the gardens were not history or engineering. They were wonder, pure and soothing. Stay with me, because soon we will see how travelers carried these stories far beyond Babylon. But first, linger with this child. Imagine lying beneath a blanket, your head heavy, your eyes closing as the voice of your grandmother softens. The hanging gardens bloom in your dreams, carrying you upward into rest. Now, let's follow the travelers. merchants, diplomats, soldiers. Those who came to Babylon carried tales back to their homelands. And always they spoke of the gardens. They described terraces upon terraces, water lifted in secret, trees shading courtyards, blossoms perfuming the air. These accounts spread outward, growing with each retelling. By the time Greek and Roman writers described them, the gardens had become legend, one of the seven wonders, a marvel unmatched. Pause again. Imagine listening by firelight as a traveler speaks, his voice calm, his hand sketching terraces in the air. You lean forward, listening closely, picturing the green, the water, the wonder. You do not doubt. You believe, and in believing, the gardens live again. And here's a gentle twist. Even if the gardens never stood in Babylon, their legend shaped how the city was remembered. Babylon was not only a place of power, of walls and towers. It became a place of beauty, of wonder, of love. The gardens softened its image, made it less distant, more human. They turned stone into story and story into dream. Stay with me, because soon we will return to the daily life that unfolded in their shadow. But for now, let us accept this. Sometimes what is remembered shapes the world more than what is proven. Sometimes imagination is the truest legacy. Now, walk once more through Babylon with me. The sun sets, the air cools, lamps glow in courtyards, ovens release their last warmth. The streets quiet, the market closes, families gather to eat bread, dates, and lamb stew. From rooftops, you see the gardens against the darkening sky, their terraces glowing in twilight, their leaves rustling softly. For the people below, they are not only wonder, they are presence, steady, reassuring, part of the city's very breath. Pause one last time. Imagine yourself lying upon a rooftop bed, the stars above, the gardens nearby. The night air is cool, the fabric beneath you soft, the scent of blossoms drifting down. You close your eyes, safe, calm, connected to a city that sleeps in rhythm with you. And so, Chapter 3 closes with this thought. The hanging gardens were more than a monument. They were a companion to the city, part of its festivals, its markets, its stories, its dreams. And in Chapter 4, we will step deeper into their mystery, how engineers and builders may have made them possible, and how ingenuity itself was a kind of wonder. For now, let the gardens rest above you, steady in the night while the city sleeps below. The hanging gardens, whether they rose above Babylon or bloomed only in the imagination of poets, could not have been spoken of without wonder at their construction. Terraces that bore trees as tall as walls, water lifted high into the air, stones strong enough to hold soil and roots. Such a marvel required more than longing. It required ingenuity. Tonight, let us walk softly into the minds of those builders, the architects and engineers who shaped clay, brick, and stone into something that seemed to touch the sky. Imagine the foundation first. Beneath the greenery, beneath the blossoms and vines, lay a structure of stone and brick, heavy, layered, precise. Ancient writers describe great vaulted terraces, arches supporting one another, layers of reed, asphalt, and thick soil built above. Each terrace was like a giant platform, solid enough to hold the roots of cypress and palm trees, deep enough to cradle vines and flowers. The work was not haphazard. It was deliberate, careful, tested. Builders knew that if the soil was too thin, trees would wither. If the water was not guided, roots would rot. If the bricks were not sealed, the weight of moisture would tear the walls apart. And so, they built with patience, laying reed mats, pouring bitumen, smoothing stone until each layer was strong. Pause here. Imagine running your hand along such a wall, warm, rough, smelling faintly of earth and tar. You sense its strength, the hidden labor pressed into each surface. Stay with me, because soon we will climb higher into their design. But first, let us picture the workers themselves. Men carrying baskets of soil upon their shoulders, women weaving reed mats, craftsmen mixing bitumen until it bubbled thick and black. Their bodies moved in rhythm, their voices low, their tasks repeated until walls rose. The marvel was not only in the result, but in the hands that shaped it. Ordinary hands, steady, enduring. Now, let us step into the greatest question of all. How is the water lifted? Ancient writers spoke of machines hidden from sight, raising water from the river to the terraces above. Some imagine chains of buckets, turned endlessly by hand or by animal, each bucket dipping into the river, rising upward, spilling into channels that carried water across the gardens. Others thought of screws, great spirals turning to lift water drop by drop. Still others believed wheels turned by oxen, their steps slow and steady, lifting water in jars that poured into troughs. None can be proven, but in each vision we see ingenuity, invention, adaptation. Pause again. Imagine standing near one of these devices. You hear the creak of wood, the splash of water, the steady grind of effort. You see buckets rise, water spilling into stone channels, flowing downward in silver threads. The sound is soothing, constant, like rain repeating itself endlessly. Stay with me, because soon we will follow that water across the terraces. But let us pause here in the mystery itself. Isn't it gentle to know that we do not need every detail? That wonder does not fade with uncertainty, but deepens. The water lifts somehow, the terraces drink, the trees grow, the gardens bloom. That is enough. Now let's follow the channels. Imagine narrow troughs cut into stone, lined with bitumen to hold the flow. Water trickles through them, branching into smaller paths, reaching roots and stems. It drips gently into basins, splashes softly into pools. You walk along these channels, listening to their rhythm. The gardens are alive with sound, not noise, but a lull of flowing water, rustling leaves, distant birds. The engineering here is not only function, but music. Pause once more. Let your breath match the water's rhythm. Inhale as the water rises. Exhale as it spills gently downward. The builders had to consider weight, balance, stability. Soil upon stone, trees upon soil, water upon roots, all pressing downward. Each terrace had to hold without crumbling. Each arch had to carry its burden. Imagine the calculations, done not with numbers on paper, but with instinct, with years of watching clay crack and stone hold. Knowledge passed from master to apprentice, memory as blueprint, trial as teacher. The gardens may have seemed dreamlike, but beneath the dream was craft honed over centuries. Stay with me, because soon we will climb into the greenery again. But first, let us bow to those unseen builders. They left no names on tablets, no songs in their honor. But without them, the wonder could never have been told. The gardens stand in memory because of their hands. Now, step again into the terraces. You walk among trees rooted deep into carefully layered soil. Their roots twist through earth that rests upon stone, watered from channels above. Vines cling to walls, blossoms spill in fragrance. Everywhere you turn, you see harmony, human labor and natural beauty entwined. It is as if the builders wrote poetry not with words, but with stone and water. Pause again. Imagine touching a leaf here, cool and damp from water that has traveled so far upward. You sense the hidden work that made this moment possible. The foundation, the machines, the channels, the hands. You taste sweetness in the air, and behind it all, quiet ingenuity. And here is a gentle twist. While the gardens are remembered as wonder, their construction was also maintenance. They would not survive without constant care. Workers hauled soil, repaired channels, patched bitumen, trimmed roots. Every day was effort, unseen, uncelebrated. Yet perhaps that is where the garden's true wonder lies. Not in a single act of creation, but in the rhythm of tending. Abundance is not built once. It is sustained. Stay with me, because soon we will descend again into the city. But first, let us linger on this thought. Every wonder is woven from care. Every terrace blooms because hands water it, because eyes watch it, because hearts choose to preserve it. As night falls, imagine the builders resting. Their tools lean against walls. Their bodies lie upon mats. Their breath rises and falls in the dark. Tomorrow, they will return, carrying soil, lifting water, patching cracks. They may not have thought of their work as building a wonder of the world, but in their quiet persistence, they left behind a memory that outlives them still. Pause one last time. Imagine yourself among them, lying under the stars, your body tired but at peace. The gardens rise nearby, whispering with leaves, sparkling with water. You feel the calm of labor done, the softness of night. the promise of rest. And so, chapter 4 closes with this thought. The hanging gardens were not magic, but craft. They were not only gift, but work. They were not only myth, but persistence. And in chapter 5, we will return to the queen herself, to the story of longing that may have begun it all. The tale of Amytas who missed her mountains, and the love that turned memory into stone and green. For now, let the rhythm of water linger, the sound of unseen hands shaping earth into dream. Every legend needs a heart, and at the heart of the Hanging Gardens is not brick or soil or water, but a story of longing. Tonight, let's turn our gaze from the terraces and foundations toward the queen herself. Amytas of Media, whose yearning for her homeland may have inspired the creation of this wonder. Whether she truly stood upon these terraces, breathing in the scent of roses and figs, or whether a tale was added later by storytellers who sought a reason for such beauty, it lingers still in the soft light of memory. Amytas becomes both woman and symbol, an exile who missed her mountains, and a queen whose longing shaped the city around her. Amytas was said to have been the daughter of a Median king, married to Nebuchadnezzar II to seal an alliance. Her homeland was far to the north, where the land rose into hills and mountains, where streams tumbled down rocky slopes, and where forests spread their branches wide. Imagine her first days in Babylon, descending from caravan or chariot into a city of heat and plain. The air here was dry, the land flat, the horizon wide and unbroken. The Euphrates flowed steady, but there were no mountain streams, no cool valleys, no pine forests stretching into the distance. The city was grand, yes, filled with walls, gates, and towers, but to her eyes, it may have felt foreign, barren of the shapes and sounds she carried in memory. Pause here. Picture yourself in her place. You stand on the walls of Babylon at dusk. Behind you lie courtyards and palaces, markets and streets alive with voices. Before you stretches desert plain, vast, flat, and endless. You breathe in, but you do not smell the pine or cedar of your childhood. You hear the city's hum, but not the mountain winds you once knew. A longing fills your chest, not sharp but steady, like a song remembered yet out of reach. Stay with me, because soon we will see how longing became creation. But first, let's imagine her nights. Amytas lies on a bed of soft fabric, attendants nearby, the air warm even after sunset. She closes her eyes, and in her dreams she walks among mountain slopes, hears streams tumbling, feels cool breezes on her face. In the morning she wakes, still in Babylon, her heart heavy with memory. Longing, when it endures, does not fade. It deepens. Now, picture Nebuchadnezzar. He was a king remembered for conquest, for building walls, for raising temples. But in this story, he is remembered also as a husband who saw the longing of his queen. The legend says that at ease or sorrow, he commanded his builders to recreate the mountain she missed, to raise terraces of stone, to plant trees and flowers upon them, to bring streams upward into the air. What no desert could provide, he would build. A mountain in the city, a memory made visible. Pause again. Let this detail soften you. Empires often build for power, for pride, for fear of enemies. But here, the tale tells of building for love. A king who noticed the longing of his queen and answered with creation. Whether true or not, the story itself is tender. Stay with me, because soon we will walk those gardens as Amytas herself may have walked them. But first, imagine the moment they were revealed to her. Perhaps she stood upon a palace balcony one morning and saw, rising in the distance, green terraces above the city walls. Perhaps attendants led her along a shaded path, guiding her into a courtyard alive with vines and blossoms. And perhaps she stopped, her breath catching, as water trickled beside her, as roses bloomed, as trees rose into the sky. In that moment, the desert melted, the city softened, and home returned, if not in truth, then in memory. Now walk with her. You step onto a stone terrace, your hand brushing the leaves of a fig tree. You breathe deeply, and the scent of pine greets you, carried from trees planted to echo the forest of her childhood. Vines cascade down walls, roses bloom in corners, birds dart from branch to branch. A channel of water glimmers at your feet, flowing cool and clear. Amytas smiles, her eyes soft, her heart lighter. For her, this is not simply a marvel. It is comfort. Pause here. Close your eyes and breathe with her. Imagine that you too have longed for something distant, and now, for a moment, it is brought near. Feel the relief in your chest, the ease in your breath. The story of Amytas is not only personal, it is symbolic. It shows us how human longing can shape the world. One woman's memory of mountains became terraces of stone. One woman's sorrow for her homeland became a wonder of the world. Whether the details are history or legend, the message remains. Longing can create. Stay with me, because soon we will explore how storytellers carried her tale through centuries. But first, linger with Amytas herself. Imagine her walking each terrace at dawn, attendants carrying baskets of fruit, servants trailing with pitchers of cool water. She pauses beneath a palm, her hand resting on its trunk. She walks to a pool, dipping her fingers into its surface. She breathes deeply, her body calm, her mind at peace. Here, she is not a queen longing for home. She is a woman at rest. Now, let us move forward in time. The story of Amytas, passed by travelers and retold by historians, may have grown like the vines themselves, spreading, reaching, flowering in new forms. Some said the gardens were built for her alone. Others said they were proof of Babylon's wealth and power. Still others questioned whether she ever walked them at all. But the tale endured because it was beautiful. A story of longing answered with love is always remembered. Pause again. Think of the storytellers by firelight, telling of Amytas and her gardens. Their listeners sigh softly, their eyes drifting shut, their hearts warmed not by conquest or power, but by tenderness. Here lies a gentle twist. Even if Amytas never existed or never walked among the gardens, the story itself is a gift. It softens Babylon's image, turning stone into tenderness, power into compassion. Sometimes legends are truer than facts, not because they describe events precisely, but because they reveal the human heart behind them. Stay with me, because soon we will return to the city below, where the people live in the shadow of this wonder. But before we descend, let's take one more slow walk with Amytas. Night falls. Lamps glow in shaded corners. Vines shimmer in the firelight. Water trickles softly in hidden channels. She reclines on a stone bench, her robe flowing, her hair catching the lamplight. Around her, the trees stand tall. The flowers close their blossoms. The stars appear above. She leans back, safe, content, her longing softened, her heart at ease. Pause one last time. Imagine sitting beside her, sharing the same night air, hearing the same water, watching the same stars. You are both cradled by the gardens, by the softness of creation answering longing. And so, Chapter 5 closes gently, whether true or imagined. The story of Amytas gives the hanging gardens their heart. They are not only an engineering feat, not only a wonder of the world. They are a love letter in stone and soil, water, and leaf. In Chapter 6, we will step beyond Amytas and Nebuchadnezzar, into the myths and debates of historians who puzzled over whether the gardens ever existed at all. For now, let the queen rest in her shaded pavilion, her longing ease, her heart soften, her dream made real. The hanging gardens are counted among the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Yet unlike the pyramids of Egypt or the lighthouse of Alexandria, their stones have never been found. No trace of terraces, no remains of water systems, no certain tablet describing them in detail lies uncovered beneath the soil. And so, the question lingers like mist. Did they ever exist at all? Tonight, let us drift through the mystery itself, not as skeptics searching for proof, but as dreamers resting in the beauty of uncertainty. Sometimes what we cannot hold may still hold us. Begin with the silence of archaeology. Excavations in Babylon have revealed great walls, palaces, gates, temples. Bricks stamped with Nebuchadnezzar's name still lie in the earth, their marks sharp after 25 centuries. But no garden terraces, no foundations of extraordinary height, no water-lifting devices have appeared. Scholars dig and brush, sift and measure, yet the terraces remain elusive. This absence of evidence has led some to wonder if the gardens were ever real, or they bloomed only in stories told by travelers and historians. Pause here. Imagine yourself as one of those archaeologists kneeling in the dust, brushing dirt from a fragment of brick. The air is hot, the ground dry, the Euphrates flowing faintly nearby. You search for traces of green, for soil darker with root, for channels carved into stone, but the earth gives you none. Still, you feel the echo of stories beneath your fingertips, as though history whispers even when the ground is silent. Stay with me, because soon we will hear those ancient voices. But first, let us sit with the mystery. The gardens may never have been found, but that does not mean they never were. Absence is not proof of nothing. It is simply silence, and silence can hold many possibilities. Now, turn to the Greek historians. Strabo, writing in the 1st century BCE, described terraces of stone, watered by screw-like devices that lifted water upward. Diodorus Siculus, writing a century earlier, told of trees growing 30 feet tall, of stair-like terraces covered with soil, of water wheels raising streams into the sky. Even Berossus, a Babylonian priest writing centuries before them, spoke of Nebuchadnezzar's gardens built to please his queen. These writers lived long after Babylon's height, but their accounts echoed one another. Different details, yet the same vision. A mountain of green in the desert. Pause again. Imagine sitting by a lamplit scroll, reading these descriptions by torchlight. You trace the words with your finger, seeing terraces rise in your mind, hearing water trickle, smelling blossoms in the air. The historians may not have walked the gardens themselves, but their words plant them in your imagination, just as firmly as any stone could. Here lies a gentle twist. Not all scholars place the gardens in Babylon at all. Some believe they stood instead in Nineveh, the Assyrian capital far to the north. In the palace of King Sennacherib, inscriptions describe gardens watered by aqueducts, trees planted in rows, marvels of irrigation. His engineers carved canals through hillsides, built stone conduits, and raised water into his city. Could the Greeks, hearing of such gardens, have confused Nineveh with Babylon? Could memory have shifted over centuries, moving the wonder from one city to another? Stay with me, because soon we will walk through that possibility. But first, notice how mystery itself nourishes the legend. If the gardens could belong to Babylon or to Nineveh, if they could have been built by Nebuchadnezzar or Sennacherib, then they become larger than one city or one king. They belong instead to imagination, to the shared human longing for green amidst desert, for water lifted upward, for beauty raised high above the earth. Now, step softly into Nineveh with me. Imagine aqueducts stretching across valleys, carved stone carrying streams from distant mountains. Picture gardens spread across the palace, watered by channels, shaded by trees, cooled by flowing water. In this vision, the wonder is no less. The city differs, the king differs, but the dream remains the same: to make the desert bloom, to bring mountains into the city, to hold abundance in human hands. Pause here. Imagine yourself in Nineveh's palace, sitting beneath a cedar tree planted in a terrace garden. The sound of water trickles through stone channels. The air is cool, the blossoms rich. You close your eyes, and whether it's Babylon or Nineveh, you feel the same peace, the same wonder. The question of existence is, in truth, part of the garden's endurance. If stones were found, if machines were unearthed, if certainty was given, the mystery would fade. But because we do not know, the gardens remain alive in imagination. They are never finished, never closed, never lost. They are green both in Babylon and Nineveh, both in fact and in dream. They live wherever they are remembered, whenever they are described, however they are imagined. Stay with me, because soon we will see how uncertainty itself can soothe. But first, let us linger in the thought of how myths endure. The hanging gardens may never have existed in stone, but they exist in words, in images, in your mind right now as you drift with me through terraces, water, and green. Now, think of how legends comfort. A child does not ask whether Amy does truly walk the gardens. A listener by firelight does not ask whether Sennacherib or Nebuchadnezzar built them. What matters is the vision, the feeling of cool shade, the sound of water, the sight of green leaves against desert sky. Myths endure not because they are proven, but because they are beautiful. Pause again. Imagine yourself lying beneath a tree that may never have existed, listening to water that may never have flowed. Yet you feel calm, soothed at rest. Reality does not diminish the dream. The dream itself is enough. And so, the debate continues. Historians weighing evidence, archaeologists brushing soil, storytellers spinning words. But you and I, here tonight, do not need the final answer. We rest in the gentle truth that some wonders live best in uncertainty. Stay with me, because soon we will return to the daily life shaped by the gardens, whether in fact or in story. But for now, let us settle into this thought. Even if the hanging gardens never stood in stone, they stand still in every mind that imagines them, in every heart that longs for them, in every voice that tells of them. That is their true endurance. Night settles once more over Babylon, or is it Nineveh? And the gardens shimmer, real or not, against the stars. Water trickles, leaves rustle, blossoms perfume the air. You lie upon a terrace, your body heavy, your breath slow, your eyes drifting closed. Whether in fact or in dream, you are there, held gently in their shade. And so, chapter 6 closes. The hanging gardens may have been history, or legend, Babylon, or Nineveh, fact or myth. But they endure in the space between certainty and dream, a wonder not of stone but of imagination. In chapter 7, we will move forward, exploring how the idea of gardens, real or legendary, inspired later cities, rulers, and storytellers, carrying the vision of paradise across centuries. For now, rest in the soothing rhythm of uncertainty, where answers are not needed and wonder itself is enough. The hanging gardens may have lived in stone or in story, but their image endured far beyond Babylon. Long after bricks of Nebuchadnezzar's city crumbled, long after Nineveh's aqueducts fell silent, the dream of a paradise raised into the air, watered by streams, filled with shade and fragrance, continued to bloom in human imagination. Tonight, let us drift through that legacy, not only in cities that sought to copy the wonder, but in the very idea of gardens as havens of peace, places where the human heart meets nature in harmony. Begin in the ancient world itself. Greek writers who describe the hanging gardens carried their vision home, and in their lands the idea took root. Terraces in Hellenistic cities bore rows of trees. Courtyards and palaces held fountains. Columns framed blossoms. In Alexandria, gardens lined the royal quarter, watered by channels that drew from a Nile. In Athens, philosophers strolled among groves of olive trees, teaching as they walked, shaded by branches overhead. The hanging gardens, whether real or imagined, whispered into these places, suggesting that to bring nature into the city was to raise life itself. Pause here. Picture yourself walking in one of those groves. The air is warm, but shade covers you. A fountain trickles softly nearby. Birds flutter from tree to tree, and the murmur of voices drifts like music. The idea of the hanging gardens has reached here, not in exact form, but in spirit. Stay with me, because soon we will move forward in time to Persia, where kings shaped their own visions of paradise. But first, let us linger on a truth. Gardens are never only about plants. They are about longing, about memory, about peace. The hanging gardens embodied that, and their echo carried far. Now, travel east with me into the Persian heartlands. There, the tradition of the paradata, a word meaning walled garden, flourished. These gardens, enclosed by walls, were planted with trees, flowers, and flowing water. They became symbols of paradise itself, places of order amidst wilderness, of abundance amidst scarcity. It is from this word paradata that our word paradise comes. And though the Persians had their own traditions, how could the image of Babylon's rising terraces not have touched their imagination? A walled garden on the ground was beauty. A walled garden raised into the sky was wonder. The two visions intertwined, shaping one another, weaving a tapestry of green and water that has lasted for millennia. Pause again. Imagine yourself inside one of these Persian gardens. For channels divide the space into quarters, each lined with fruit trees and roses. In the center lies a pool, reflecting the sky. The air is cool, the blossoms fragrant, the water gentle. You sit in the shade, your breath slow, your body light. You are in paradise. Stay with me, because soon we will step into later centuries, when the idea of garden as paradise spread into distant lands. But for now, rest in this Persian vision, where enclosure does not confine but comforts, where walls protect beauty, where water sings softly to those who sit and dream. As centuries turned, the vision of Paradise Garden spread westward and eastward. In Islamic lands, rulers and poets alike embraced the image. Gardens filled with flowing water, tiled fountains, orchards heavy with fruit, became both pleasure and prayer. In Spain, the Alhambra's courtyards whisper with fountains, vines trailed along arches, flowers spilled into night air. In Iran, vast gardens spread in geometric precision, water running through narrow channels, pavilions rising above. Each echoed the same dream, to weave nature and craft into a single harmony. And within those whispers, faintly, the hanging gardens lived on, not as literal terraces, but as inspiration, as seed of an idea that could never die. Pause here. Imagine walking the court of the lions in Alhambra. Fountains flow from the mouths of stone lions. Water sparkles in moonlight. Flowers bloom in every corner. You walk slowly, your footsteps echoing softly against tiles. You breathe deeply, and the air itself feels like poetry. Babylon is far away, yet here too the dream survives. Stay with me, because soon we will carry this vision even further into modern times. But first, linger with the poets. In verses of Persia and Andalusia, gardens became symbols of paradise eternal. A sip of water, a blossom scent, a shade of vine, all became metaphors for divine comfort, for peace beyond time. And behind those metaphors, perhaps faintly, the terraces of Babylon still glimmered. Now, drift forward to later centuries. The Renaissance in Europe brought with it a revival of classical learning, and with it, the seven wonders returned to memory. Artists painted the hanging gardens as lush terraces filled with fountains and fruit trees. Scholars debated their location, their structure, their truth, and princes built their own gardens with terraces, waterworks, and pavilions, seeking to imitate not only nature, but the dream of paradise described in ancient scrolls. Pause again. Imagine one such Renaissance garden. Stone steps lead upward. Terraces unfold. Fountains sparkle. Statues stand amidst blossoms. You hear music drifting from pavilion. Laughter carried on the breeze. It is not Babylon, yet it is born of Babylon's dream. Here lies a gentle twist. The hanging gardens may never have existed, yet their non-existence did not diminish their influence. On the contrary, their uncertain reality made them more powerful. Each age, each culture, could imagine them anew, shaping them to its own vision of paradise. In this way, they became more enduring than stone. Stay with me, because soon we will reflect on why this matters. But first, imagine the gardens in your own way, not as history describes them, not as painters picture them, but as you wish them to be. Perhaps they are filled with roses, or shaded by olive trees, or cooled by waterfalls. Perhaps you sit in a quiet corner with a stream at your feet, or lie beneath a tree with fruit above your head. The hanging gardens exist wherever you imagine them, and so the legacy of the hanging gardens is not limited to ancient stones. It is alive in every vision of Paradise Garden, every courtyard filled with fountains, every orchard enclosed by walls. It is alive in poetry, in paintings, in stories told to children at night. The garden became not only a wonder of Babylon, but a wonder of the human heart. Pause one last time. Imagine lying in a garden of your choosing tonight. The air is cool, the leaves rustle, water flows softly. You are safe, surrounded by green, embraced by peace. The hanging gardens are here, not as ruins or as myth, but as comfort in your own imagination. And so, Chapter 7 closes gently. The hanging gardens, real or legendary, gave birth to centuries of gardens shaped as paradise, echoing across Persia, Spain, and beyond. They remain not only in memory but in practice, each new garden carrying their spirit. In Chapter 8, we will return to Babylon itself, to see how the daily life of its citizens wove around the presence of this wonder. But for now, rest in the knowledge that wherever gardens bloom, the hanging gardens breathe still. The hanging gardens may seem lofty, suspended above stone terraces and remembered as a marvel of kings, but they were not separate from the lives of ordinary people. Just as a mountain shapes the valley around it, so too the gardens touch the rhythms of daily life in Babylon. They were glimpsed from rooftops, whispered about in markets, imagined in stories told to children at night. Tonight, let us walk softly through the streets and courtyards, imagining how citizens live beneath the shadow of this wonder. Begin in the early morning. The sun rises slowly over plains, painting the sky with soft pink and gold. The city stirs. Women grind grain upon stones. The sound rhythmic, steady, like a heartbeat echoing through courtyards. Men lead donkeys laden with baskets toward the market. Children fetch water from wells, their voices bright, their feet bare upon packed earth. And above it all, as the city wakes, the terraces gleam with dew, leaves shimmer in morning light, water drips softly from channels, birds flutter between branches. For the people below, the gardens are part of dawn itself, a vision of green against a new sky. Pause here. Imagine yourself stepping out from your home at sunrise, bread baking on the hearth behind you, the cool air brushing your face. You lift your eyes, and there are the terraces, vines hanging, blossoms glowing. Your breath deepens, your body feels lighter, the city feels alive. Stay with me, because soon we will follow these citizens into the market. But first, notice how the gardens are not far, distant marvels. They are companions, like the steady hum of the river or the call of doves. They belong to the city's rhythm. Now, walk into the market. Stalls line the square, shaded with reed mats, filled with baskets of dates, jars of sesame oil, loaves of warm bread, figs, pomegranates, roasted lamb wrapped in flatbread. Merchants call softly, their voices low and steady, offering goods with patient rhythm. Children dart to the crowd, their laughter quick and light. Travelers pause, their eyes lifted to the terraces beyond the roofs, marveling at the green that crowns the city. The hanging gardens are not sold or bought here, yet they shape the market's mood. They remind everyone that abundance exists, that beauty is part of daily bread. Pause again. Imagine yourself tasting a fig purchased at the market. Its sweetness fills your mouth. Its juice lingers on your lips. As you chew, you hear the murmur of the crowd. You smell spices carried on the air, and you glimpse the gardens rising above. The taste and the sight mingle, becoming one moment of calm delight. Stay with me, because soon we will move into the afternoon, when the city grows hot and the gardens offer shade. But first, linger in the market's hum, where daily life unfolds beneath beauty. Now, walk with me through a courtyard in midday. The sun beats down upon the city, heat shimmering on clay walls, streets emptying as families retreat into shade. Within a courtyard, women sit weaving linen, their fingers quick and skillful, thread stretched across wooden frames. Children play with clay toys, small animals shaped with care. A jar of cool water rests in a corner, its surface damp, drops running down. And in the distance, rising above the wall, branches sway gently, shading the city with their promise of coolness. Even if you cannot touch them, their presence eases you. Pause here. Imagine sitting in this courtyard, your back against a wall still warm from the morning sun, your eyes half closed as you sip cool water. You hear weaving, laughter, and beyond that, the faint whisper of leaves in the wind. It is enough to calm you. Stay with me, because soon we will walk into evening, when the city gathers again, and the gardens glow softly against twilight. But first, let us pause in the afternoon, where stillness reigns, where gardens stand steady like guardians above the quiet city. Now the sun begins to set. Families climb to rooftops, spreading mats for evening meals. Bread, lentil stew, roasted fish dates, and figs are shared beneath the open sky. Laughter rises. Stories flow. Neighbors greet one another from roof to roof. And above, the hanging gardens glow in twilight, their leaves rustling, their channels glittering as they catch the fading light. For the people of Babylon, they are not distant marvels. They are evening companions, part of the city's breath. Pause again. Imagine lying back on a rooftop mat, your stomach full, your body relaxed, the scent of food lingering in the air. You lift your eyes to the terraces, where trees sway against the stars. You feel the whole city breathing with you, slow and steady, safe and calm. The gardens also shape festivals, Processions passed beneath them. Priests chanted prayers near their shade. Torches lit their leaves in glowing gold. Citizens gathered, their voices joined, their hearts lifted by the sight of abundance above them. To live in Babylon was to live not only with walls and gates, but with a mountain of green in your midst, a daily reminder of beauty, a promise of life renewed. Here lies a gentle twist. For those who lived in the city, the hanging gardens may not have been considered a wonder of the world at all. They were simply part of home, as familiar as a river, as steady as the walls. Sometimes what seems miraculous to travelers is simply ordinary to those who dwell within it. And yet this ordinariness was its gift. It was not distant, but woven into daily life. Stay with me, because soon we will end this day in Babylon. But first, remember this truth. Wonders endure not because they are distant spectacles, but because they touch ordinary lives with beauty. Now night falls. Lamps glow in courtyards. Fires burn low. Voices fade into silence. The Euphrates glimmers in moonlight, its waters flowing calm and endless. And there, rising above the darkened city, the hanging gardens stand luminous, their leaves silvered by starlight, their water whispering into the night. Families sleep on rooftops. Children dream of trees climbing into sky, and all the while the gardens breathe, steady and eternal. Pause one last time. Imagine yourself lying there, your body heavy on a mat, your eyes drifting closed, the murmur of water and leaves cradling you. You are safe, unhurried, part of the city's rhythm. And so, chapter 8 closes. The hanging gardens were not only for kings and queens, not only for travelers and poets. They belonged also to the people, woven into markets, courtyards, meals, and sleep. In chapter 9, we will turn our gaze outward, exploring how visitors carried tales of this wonder across lands, shaping distant imaginations. For now, rest in Babylon, beneath the terraces that glow softly above. The hanging gardens of Babylon may have lived most vividly in the minds of those who never saw them. Travelers carried whispers of them across deserts, rivers, and seas, passing their image into new tongues and fresh imaginations. The people of Babylon may have walked beneath the terraces each day with familiarity, but for the stranger arriving through the gates, the sight was astonishing. Tonight, let us walk with those travelers, imagining how their voices spread the legend of this wonder far beyond the city's walls. Begin with the caravan roads. From the west came merchants with carts of cedar wood, jars of olive oil, and wines from the Levant. From the east arrived traders with lapis lazuli, spices, and silk from distant lands. Camels padded softly across dust. Donkeys carried burdens, and men and women walked patiently under the desert sun. After days of travel, the walls of Babylon rose before them, high, broad, painted in glowing colors. Through the gates they entered, their eyes widening as they looked upward and saw, above brick and tower, something unexpected. Greenery climbing into sky, trees swaying upon stone. In a city of clay and heat, this vision of hanging green must have seemed impossible, miraculous. Pause here. Imagine yourself as one of these travelers, your body weary from days on the road, your lips dry, your feet sore. You enter Babylon, expecting walls and dust. But then you see it. Leaves unfurling in the sky, blossoms hanging, water glimmering as it falls. Your breath catches, your weariness eases. You feel not only relief, but wonder. Stay with me, because soon we will hear how these travelers carried their memories outward. But first, let us linger in the awe of first sight, when the gardens rose like a dream against the city's towers. Now, picture these travelers gathered at night in the inns of Babylon. They eat bread and stew, drink watered wine, and speak of what they have seen. Their voices low. They describe terraces as high as mountains, water lifted into the air, vines shading stone. A Greek merchant listens, his eyes wide. An Egyptian scribe takes notes, sketching rough outlines on a shard of pottery. A Phoenician sailor imagines how he will tell his family when he returns home. Around the firelight, the gardens grow larger with every retelling, their details multiplying like blossoms. Pause again. Imagine yourself sitting in that inn, your body warmed by food, your mind stirred by stories. You hear words spoken in many tongues, each adding color to the vision. You feel part of a chain, carrying wonder from one place to another, passing it forward like a gift. Stay with me, because soon we will follow these voices outward to distant lands where the hanging gardens took on new life. But first, pause in the inn where the spark of memory begins. Now, journey westward with the merchants returning home. In Greece, travelers tell the city unlike any other, crowned by gardens in the sky. In Egypt, scribes add to scrolls the marvels of Mesopotamia, describing rivers that run upward into terraces. In the Levant, sailors speak in harbors of trees rising above walls, of blossoms pouring fragrance upon the city below. Each tale carries a piece of the vision, reshaped by memory, colored by imagination, and with each retelling, the hanging gardens grow. Here lies a gentle twist. The further from Babylon the story traveled, the larger and more wondrous the garden became. Distance did not diminish them, it magnified them. A tree became a forest, a terrace became a mountain, a fountain became a river flowing into the sky. And though each listener knew the stories might grow in the telling, they cherished them still. Pause once more. Imagine yourself sitting by the shore in Greece, hearing a sailor describe the gardens. You have never traveled so far, and perhaps never will. But as he speaks, the terraces rise before your mind's eye. You see the water flowing, the blossoms blooming, the birds fly among branches. You believe because belief is sweeter than doubt. Stay with me, because soon we will hear how historians wrote these tales into permanence. But first, rest in the harbor's quiet, where stories drift like the tide, carrying wonders from land to land. Now, let us move into the world of Greek historians. Ctesias, writing in the 4th century BCE, described the gardens and scrolls read by many. Later, Strabo and Diodorus repeated the marvel, adding their own details. Trees 30 feet tall, irrigation by hidden machines, terraces built like mountains. Their words fixed a vision, shaping the gardens for all who read them. Even if they never stood in stone, they stood in ink and parchment, unshaken by time. Pause here. Imagine yourself as a scribe, dipping your pen into ink, copying these descriptions onto a scroll. The letters flow steady. The words build terraces upon the page. You may never see Babylon, but through ink, you preserve its wonder. Stay with me, because soon we will think about how memory itself becomes architecture. But first, listen to the scratch of pen upon parchment, the soft rustle of scrolls being rolled, the quiet endurance of words. Memory and imagination built their own gardens, stronger than stone. The travelers carried images. The historians set them in writing. The listeners carried them in their hearts. And so, the hanging gardens became not only a place but a story, not only an architecture of terraces, but an architecture of imagination. Here lies another twist. Perhaps the gardens endure more vividly because they are uncertain. If they had crumbled like walls, if their ruins were found and measured, they might be less wondrous. But because they exist in story alone, they are eternal, always new, always blooming in the minds of those who hear them. Pause again. Imagine yourself as a listener by firelight, hearing a tale of the gardens. The night is dark, the flames flicker, the words flow. You close your eyes, and there they are, green terraces, flowing water, shade, and fragrance. You feel them more surely than if you had seen them, because they live within you. And so, the hanging garden spread across the ancient world, not only through stone, but through story. Travelers saw, or thought they saw. Historians recorded, listeners believed, and through them, the gardens grew beyond Babylon, into every land where words could travel. Stay with me, because soon we will step into later centuries, when these stories shape myths of paradise. But for now, rest in the gentle truth. Wonders live longest when carried not in stone but in hearts. The hanging gardens bloom tonight, not because of ruins, but because of you listening now, imagining them with me. Night falls once again. Travelers rest in inns. Ships sail toward harbors. Historians dip pens into ink. Across the world, stories of the hanging gardens drift like seeds upon the wind, planting visions in every mind they touch. And you, lying quietly beneath your own blanket, are part of this chain. You are the listener, the dreamer, the one who keeps the gardens alive. And so, Chapter 9 closes. The hanging gardens travel not by stone but by story, carried by travelers, scribes, sailors, and listeners across the world. In Chapter 10, we will pause within Babylon again, exploring the water itself, the secret lifeblood of the terraces, how it was lifted and guided, and how it shaped the city's daily life. For now, drift in the comfort of voices across centuries, knowing that you too are part of the garden's journey. The hanging gardens could not have existed without water. In a city built upon desert plains, where summer heat dried the air and the sun burned without mercy, water was life. Without it, there could be no blossoms, no vines, no terraces filled with trees. And yet, if the gardens were real, they stood not withered but thriving, green and lush, filled with shade and fragrance. How was it possible? Tonight, let us follow the quiet sound of water, imagining how it rose from the river below to nourish one of the world's greatest wonders. Begin with the Euphrates. Wide, steady, and slow, the river flowed through Babylon, its surface glimmering in sunlight, its voice murmuring in moonlight. On its banks, children played, fishermen cast nets, women filled jars. Palm trees grew along its edges, reeds rustled in the breeze, birds drifted above. The river was the city's lifeline, carrying not only water but food, trade, and meaning. Yet the gardens rose high above its level, towering terraces that could not drink directly from its current. To feed them, water had to be lifted upward, raised against gravity, carried into stone basins, and spread into channels. Pause here. Imagine yourself standing at the river's edge, dipping your hands into its coolness. You look upward at the terraces, their green crowns swaying against the sky. You wonder, how can the water you hold flow so high? What hidden hands lift it? What secret devices carry it? Stay with me, because soon we will walk through the theories. But first, let us rest in the mystery, listening to the river as it whispers beneath the shadow of the gardens. Now, imagine the water-lifting machines described by ancient historians. Strabo spoke of a screw-like device, turned by hand or by beasts, that raised water from one level to another. This may have been the Archimedean screw, though Archimedes lived centuries later. Could the Babylonians have known a similar device, turning it endlessly to lift streams skyward? Picture wooden cylinders turning slowly, creaking softly as water trickled upward along spiraling channels, pouring into cisterns, then flowing into terraces. The sound would have been steady, rhythmic, like a lullaby. Splash, creak, pour. Pause again. Imagine yourself standing near one of these machines. You hear the turning, the sloshing, the pouring. Water rises, not rushing but steady, like breath drawn in and out. It feels soothing, inevitable, like the heartbeat of the city itself. Stay with me, because soon we will step into another possibility, one even grander. But first, listen to the soft music of water wheels imagined in the ancient world. Some scholars believe it was not screws but chain pumps. Buckets attached to chains or ropes, dipped into the river below, then pulled upward by wheels turned by hand or animal. As the buckets rose, they spilled their water into troughs, which then carried it upward into stone basins. From there, channels spread it across the terraces, watering trees, vines, and flowers. Imagine men walking steadily, pushing wheels, their movements slow and rhythmic, their labor turning into green life above. The gardens were not only beauty. They were the result of steady work, patient effort, and the endless turning of wheels. Pause here. Picture yourself watching these workers, their silhouettes moving against the evening light, their footsteps slow and steady. The wheels creak, the buckets spill, water glitters as it falls into channels. The gardens above rustle softly, fed by the quiet strength of human hands. Stay with me, because soon we will imagine the water spreading across the terraces themselves. But first, rest in the rhythm of the wheels, the sound of labor turned into beauty. Now, walk upward into the terraces. The water, lifted into cisterns, flows into clay pipes or stone channels. It runs gently downward, divided into streams, trickling into beds of soil. Roots drink deeply, leaves spread wide, blossoms unfurl. Imagine standing on one terrace, hearing water trickle beside you, watching it sink into soil, smelling the fragrance that follows. The whole garden becomes a living fountain, water flowing through it like blood through veins. Pause again. Imagine placing your hand upon the stone edge of the channel, feeling the water pass, cool and smooth. You close your eyes, and its sound soothes you, calming your breath, easing your thoughts. Stay with me, because soon we will see how this water shaped not only the gardens but the city itself. But first, linger in the terraces, where every leaf glistens with drops of flowing life. The water's journey shaped Babylonian daily life too. Canals spread from the river into the city, feeding fields, orchards, and homes. Farmers drew water to nourish barley and dates. Shepherds led flocks to drink. Potters mixed clay with it. Bakers kneaded dough. The same river that fed the hanging gardens also fed the people. The wonder above was simply a reflection of life below, a symbol of abundance, drawn upward to crown the city. Here lies a gentle twist. The hanging gardens were not separate from Babylon's daily rhythm of irrigation. They were its mirror, its crown, its highest song. What farmers did in fields, the gardens did in terraces. What mothers did with jars, pouring water for families, the gardens did with channels, pouring water for trees. The wonder was not apart from life, but woven into it. Pause again. Imagine yourself kneeling by a small field outside the walls, dipping a jar into a canal, pouring water gently upon the earth. The soil darkens. The plants drink. As you rise, you look back and see the terraces glistening above. You feel a kinship, a shared labor, a shared blessing. Stay with me, because soon we will let night fall, when the water whispers most softly. But first, breathe in the coolness that water brings, the sense of renewal that flows through every drop. Now night arrives. The river glimmers silver beneath the moon. Canals reflect starlight. Jars sit full beside homes, and above, the hanging gardens whisper with flowing streams. Water pours softly from one terrace to another, trickling downward in hidden paths. Its sound like distant rain. Families lie on rooftops, their eyes closing to its lullaby. The city breathes with it, drinks with it, sleeps with it. Pause one last time. Imagine yourself lying there, the sound of water drifting through the night, steady and soft. You feel safe, soothed, held. You breathe slowly, and the rhythm of your breath matches the rhythm of the river, the wheel, the trickle, and so Chapter 10 closes. The hanging gardens were not only stone and soil, not only trees and blossoms. They were water, lifted upward by patient hands, flowing downward into channels, feeding roots and lives alike. In Chapter 11, we will turn from water to wonder itself, exploring how the gardens became part of the 7 wonders of the world, shaping human memory for centuries to come. For now, rest in the sound of water flowing through terraces, a lullaby as old as Babylon. The 7 wonders of the ancient world are not only monuments of stone and skill, they are also monuments of imagination. Each wonder was remembered, written about, and passed down across centuries as the highest examples of human craft and beauty. Among them stood the hanging gardens of Babylon, unique because their very existence remains uncertain. Unlike the pyramids or the lighthouse, no stones remain, no ruins can be measured, no foundations unearthed. And yet, they hold their place among the wonders, steady as if carved in memory itself. Tonight, let us wander through the story of how the gardens came to join the sacred list, and why mystery itself gave them their enduring power. Begin in Greece, where historians and travelers shaped the first list of wonders. They marveled at the pyramids of Giza, so ancient even in their time. They praised the temple of Artemis at Ephesus, the statue of Zeus at Olympia, the Colossus of Rhodes, the mausoleum of Halicarnassus, and the lighthouse of Alexandria. Each could be visited, measured, seen. Yet among these, they placed the hanging gardens, described not from first-hand certainty, but from stories told, scrolls read, words passed along. They trusted memory and myth enough to give the gardens a place among the eternal. Pause here. Imagine yourself as one of those early compilers, sitting by lamplight with a scroll spread before you. You write the names of 6 wonders known and solid. And then, with steady hand, you write the 7th, the hanging gardens of Babylon. You pause, aware that you have never seen them. But you trust the voices of those who claim to. You trust the power of the vision. Stay with me, because soon we will hear how these voices describe the gardens in detail. But first, let us sit with the thought that a wonder does not require proof. It requires awe. Now, turn to the ancient descriptions. Strabo wrote the terraces, describing trees as tall as houses, watered by machines hidden within. Diodorus Siculus spoke of vaults and columns, layers of stone filled with soil, fruit trees spreading wide, fountains flowing. Philo of Byzantium, writing of wonders, included the hanging gardens as a symbol of mastery over nature. For each, the details differed, but the essence remained. A mountain of green rising in the desert, an impossible paradise made real. Pause again. Imagine reading these scrolls one by one, each layering new detail upon the vision. One describes the stone vaults, another the water machines, another the blossoms. You see the gardens grow in your mind, detail upon detail, until they live vividly within you. Stay with me, because soon we will think of why they belonged among the wonders at all. But first, linger with these words, these fragments of memory, each carrying the gardens further into time. The hanging gardens were unique among the wonders because they combined engineering with nature. The pyramids were stone, unyielding and eternal. The statue of Zeus was ivory and gold, dazzling yet fixed. The lighthouse was fire and tower, guiding ships at sea. But the gardens were alive. They breathed, they grew, they changed with the seasons. They were not only built, they were cultivated. They required endless care, endless water, endless tending. To call them a wonder was to acknowledge that humans had not only built with stone, but had coaxed nature into art. Pause here. Imagine yourself tending a tree on the terraces, your hands brushing leaves, your jar pouring water, your breath mingling with the fragrance of blossoms. You are part of the wonder, not separate from it. Stay with me, because soon we will see how this uniqueness deepened their mystery. But first, breathe in the idea of a wonder that grows, a monument that is alive. Now, think of how the other wonders have fared. The pyramids still stand warm but firm. The lighthouse crumbled long ago, toppled by earthquakes. The temple and the statue fell. The colossus broke. The mausoleum became ruin. Yet the hanging gardens are different. They did not fall. They slipped into uncertainty. Their ruins cannot be found. Their foundations cannot be measured. And so, they survive in a way the others cannot. Not as stone, but as dream. Here lies a gentle twist. Perhaps their absence has kept them most alive. The pyramids impress with their weight, but the gardens impress with their invisibility. They belong to every listener, every dreamer, every reader. They adapt, reshape, bloom anew in each imagination. Pause again. Imagine yourself speaking with a friend by candlelight, describing the hanging gardens in your own way. Perhaps you add waterfalls, perhaps groves of olive, perhaps blossoms unknown. Your friend imagines them differently, and both visions are true, because the gardens live in memory, not in stone. Stay with me, because soon we will see how this mystery enchanted not only ancient minds, but also ours today. But first, sit with the paradox. The least provable of the wonders is the most enduring in imagination. Now, drift forward through centuries. The 7 wonders were copied and recopied, painted in manuscripts, spoken of in lectures, written in books. Artists painted the hanging gardens in medieval manuscripts as terraced castles with vines spilling from windows. Renaissance engravers drew them as stone palaces crowned with trees. Each age imagined them in its own style. Each artist gave them new life. In the absence of ruins, invention bloomed. Pause here. Imagine opening a Renaissance book. Its pages filled with drawings of the wonders. You see the pyramids in sharp lines, the lighthouse tall, the statue grand. But when you reach the hanging gardens, your breath catches. They look familiar yet strange, like castles you know but crowned with forests. The vision is not exact, but it is beautiful. Stay with me, because soon we will ask why humans need lists of wonders at all. But first, linger with these images, each one a fresh blossoming of the gardens. The 7 wonders were more than monuments. They were promises. They told the ancient world that beauty could be made by human hands, that skill could rival nature, that harmony could be shaped from stone. By placing the hanging gardens among them, humanity declared that to cultivate life itself was a wonder, as worthy as carving stone or raising towers. It was not only height or size that made them great, but the quiet artistry of water, soil, and green. Pause again. Imagine humanity's pride in that moment, not only in walls or weapons, but in gardens and leaves and blossoms. Imagine how soothing that must have been, to declare that peace itself could be a wonder. Stay with me, because soon we will end this chapter. But first, hold this thought. To name the Hanging Gardens as a wonder was to place life itself among the world's greatest achievements. Now night falls again. The list of wonders lies upon a table, ink gleaming in lamplight. Outside, stars glitter above the ruins of old cities. The Hanging Gardens are not among the ruins, yet they shine within memory as brightly as any stone. Travelers sleep, scribes close their scrolls, artists rest their hands, and the gardens bloom softly in the darkness of imagination. Pause one last time. Imagine yourself lying back, listening to the silence. The gardens are there, in your thoughts, in your breath, in your dreams. You need no proof. They're alive within you. And so, chapter 11 closes. The Hanging Gardens became one of the 7 wonders not because of their stones, but because of their story, their vision, their mystery. They remind us that wonders need not be certain to be true, nor permanent to endure. In chapter 12, we will wander deeper into Babylon itself, exploring the city as a whole and seeing how the gardens fit within its grand design. For now, rest in the quiet assurance that some wonders live best in the imagination, blooming eternally in the minds of those who dream. Babylon was more than its hanging gardens. To understand how those terraces breathe within the city, we must walk gently through its avenues, its walls, its temples, its homes. The gardens were a jewel, yes, but a jewel must rest in a setting, and the setting of Babylon was vast and shimmering, a city that dazzled travelers long before they glimpsed vines rising above stone. Tonight, let us wander slowly through Babylon itself, imagining how the city's grand design framed and supported its wonder. Begin with the walls. Babylon's outer fortifications stretched for miles, so wide that chariots could ride upon them, so tall that shadows fell far across the fields. Built of baked brick, stamped with the name of Nebuchadnezzar, they seemed less like barriers and more like mountains shaped by human hands. Travelers approaching from the desert saw these walls long before they reached the city. Against the open sky, the walls glowed golden in sunlight, purple in twilight, silver in moonlight. Within their vast embrace lay palaces, temples, streets, and markets, all pulsing with life. Pause here. Imagine yourself approaching the walls at dusk, your body weary from travel, your heart steady with anticipation. The sun lowers, the bricks shine softly, and you feel small yet safe, welcomed by the arms of a city that seems eternal. Stay with me, because soon we will step through the gates. But first, let us linger outside, feeling the awe of those who came upon Babylon for the first time, its scale almost beyond belief. Now, pass through the Ishtar Gate, one of the most splendid entrances in the ancient world. Its glazed bricks gleam deep blue, patterned with lions, dragons, and bulls in golden relief. Torches lit the way, their flames flickering against shining surfaces. The gate opened onto processional way, a broad road paved with stone, lined with walls decorated in the same glowing blues and golds. Festivals and parades marched here, priests leading sacred statues, musicians playing, citizens cheering. The Hanging Gardens stood not far beyond, their terraces rising above palaces, visible from the processional way, as if to remind every traveler that Babylon's glory was not only in its walls and temples, but in living green. Pause again. Imagine walking along this road, your sandals pressing against smooth stone, your eyes lifted to walls glowing like the evening sky. You breathe in the mingled scents of incense, food, and blossoms drifting from the terraces nearby. The city feels alive, vast yet intimate, majestic yet warm. Stay with me, because soon we will move deeper into the heart of the city. But first, savor this moment of passage, when the outside world fades and Babylon opens before you like a dream. Now, step into the palace district, where the king's great residence spread across courtyards and halls. Here stood Nebuchadnezzar's throne room, vast and glowing, its walls decorated with brilliant tiles, its ceiling high as a temple's roof. Servants moved quietly. Guards stood still. Scribes recorded decrees. And beyond the palace, linked to it in memory and in design, rose the hanging gardens. Whether seen from courtyards or from high windows, their terraces softened the grandeur of stone with the gentleness of green. The palace was power, but the gardens were comfort. Together, they formed a harmony, strength crowned by beauty. Pause here. Imagine yourself standing in a shaded courtyard of the palace, your eyes catching glimpses of green leaves swaying against the sky. The air is warm, but the sight soothes you. You feel balance, as though stone and leaf rule and rest have joined hands. Stay with me, because soon we will move beyond the palace to the city's sacred heart. But first, let us rest in this courtyard, listening to the faint trickle of water and the quiet hum of voices. Now, walk toward the ziggurat, the great temple tower known to later ages as the Tower of Babel. Its base was vast, its levels rising step by step, each dedicated to the gods, each closer to the heavens. Priests climbed its stairways, carrying offerings, chanting prayers. From its summit, one could see the whole city spread like a tapestry, walls encircling, streets winding, canals gleaming, and shining like a crown among rooftops, the hanging gardens. For priests and people alike, the gardens were not separate from worship. They reminded all who saw them that creation itself was sacred, that beauty was divine, that to lift green into the sky was a form of praise. Pause again. Imagine yourself climbing the ziggurat, each step slow, the city unfolding beneath you. You reach a terrace and turn your gaze. There, the hanging gardens shimmer in the sun, their vines glowing, their water glistening. You feel as though heaven and earth meet in their shade. Stay with me, because soon we will wander through the ordinary neighborhoods of Babylon, where people live their daily lives. But first, linger here on the heights, seeing the whole city in one glance, its heart pulsing with green. Now, step down into the streets. Here the houses line narrow lanes, their walls of mud brick, their roofs flat and used as living spaces. Families gather on rooftops for meals. Children chase each other through alleys. Neighbors talk across walls. The scent of bread baking drifts through the air, mingling with the fragrance of spices sold in nearby stalls. Above it all, the hanging gardens are visible in glimpses, sometimes framed between rooftops, sometimes rising unexpectedly beyond a turn. To the citizens, the gardens are not distant palaces but companions, visible each day as they grind grain, fetch water, or share meals. Pause once more. Imagine yourself sitting on a rooftop with a family, sharing warm bread and figs. You hear laughter, you feel the soft breeze, and you glance upward to see blossoms swaying on terraces above. The gardens are part of your evening meal, part of your life. Stay with me, because soon we will let night fall over Babylon. But first, sit here in the warmth of daily life, where beauty is both extraordinary and ordinary at once. Now let the city rest. The sun sets, torches glow, lamps flicker in courtyards. The Euphrates flows calmly, reflecting moonlight, carrying the city's heart in its waters. From the palace to the smallest home, people lie down to sleep, soothed by the rhythm of the river and the sight of green terraces above. The hanging gardens shimmer softly in moonlight, their leaves silver, their waters murmuring. They are the city's lullaby, its quiet gift, its eternal crown. Pause one last time. Imagine yourself lying on a mat atop a rooftop, the stars glittering above, the gardens glowing faintly in the distance. You breathe slowly, your body heavy, your mind calm. You are part of Babylon, part of its wonder. And so, chapter 12 closes. Babylon was not only its gardens, nor were the gardens separate from the city. Together, walls, gates, temples, homes, and terraces form a harmony, a city where stone and green, power and beauty, divine and human all intertwined. In chapter 13, we will step inside the gardens themselves once more, exploring the plants, trees, and flowers that may have grown there, each chosen not only for beauty but for meaning. For now, rest in Babylon's embrace, the city vast, the garden steady, the night eternal. The hanging gardens were not only terraces of stone and streams of water. They were living collections of plants, trees, and blossoms. Imagine walking slowly through them now, terrace by terrace, as though each step carried you deeper into the heart of green. We may never know exactly what grew there, but by listening to history, to the plants of Mesopotamia, to the traditions of neighboring lands, we can weave a vision soft and full. Tonight, let us wander to the plants of the hanging gardens, imagining their shade, their fragrance, their colors, and their whispers. Begin with the trees. Shade was precious in Babylon, where the summer sun pressed hot and unyielding upon earth and stone. To lift trees into the air was to lift comfort itself. Palm trees, tall and slender, may have spread their fronds across terraces, their leaves whispering like soft fans in the breeze. Date palms, their fruit heavy in clusters, provided sweetness and strength, food and delight. Cypress trees, dark and straight, may have stood as guardians, their scent sharp, their presence solemn. Cedars, brought from the mountains of Lebanon, could have crowned the gardens, their branches broad, their fragrance rich, they would revered. Pause here. Imagine yourself stepping beneath a palm's shadow, its fronds swaying above, its dates ripening quietly. You reach upward, pluck one, taste its sweetness, feel its juice linger on your tongue. Around you, the terrace hums with life. Stay with me, because soon we will move to fruit trees. But first, let us linger beneath the palms, their leaves casting patterns of shifting shade upon the stone. Now, turn to figs, pomegranates, and vines. Figs, sacred and ancient, may have grown in terrace soil, their broad leaves spreading shade, their fruit tender and sweet. Pomegranates, their skins glowing red, their seeds glistening like jewels, symbolize fertility, abundance, eternity. Grapevines may have climbed trellises, their clusters hanging heavy, their leaves spreading cool shade. To walk among these was to walk within both nourishment and symbol, for fruit was more than food. It was meaning, woven into ritual, poetry, and love. Pause again. Imagine holding a pomegranate in your hand, its skin smooth, its weight steady. You break it open, and seeds glimmer like rubies in the sun. You taste, and the juice stains your lips, sharp yet sweet. Around you, vines rustle, figs sway, leaves flutter. Stay with me, because soon we will see blossoms. But first linger with fruit, symbols of abundance rising above the city, promising life unending. Now, let us walk through blossoms fragrant and soft. Imagine roses climbing along trellises, their petals unfolding in morning dew. Lilies, white and delicate, opening their trumpets to the sun. Irises, their purple and yellow glowing like jewels against green. Jasmine, sweet and intoxicating, spilling fragrance into night air. Perhaps even exotic plants brought from distant lands. Gifts of traders, growing as marvels among the familiar. The terraces would not only be shade and food, they would be perfume and color, softness and delight. Pause here. Imagine yourself bending to smell a rose, its scent filling your breath, calming your mind. You close your eyes, and the fragrance carries you further into stillness. Around you, petals fall softly, like whispers of time itself. Stay with me, because soon we will hear the sounds of the garden itself. But first, linger in the fragrance, the blossoms breathing gently, filling the terraces with invisible comfort. Now, imagine herbs growing in corners and edges. Mint, sharp and cool, used to refresh and heal. Coriander, its seeds value for flavor. Thyme and sage, their scents earthy, their leaves small yet potent. These humble plants, often overlooked, gave texture to meals, medicine to families, fragrance to courtyards. Within the hanging gardens, they added grounding to grandeur, smallness to balance greatness. Pause again. Imagine brushing your hand along a patch of mint, its cool scent rising instantly, filling your senses. You inhale and feel awake yet calm, refreshed yet steady. The grand terraces feel closer, more human. Stay with me, because soon we will let the garden's sound and movement come alive. But first, breathe with the herbs, their quiet strength anchoring the gardens. Now listen, birds nest in branches, their calls soft, their wings fluttering. Bees hum from blossom to blossom. their dance weaving honey in hidden hives. Water trickles through channels, splashing gently into pools, feeding roots, cooling air. Leaves rustle in breezes, shifting softly, making music like distant whispers. The garden is not silent. It is a lullaby of life, a steady rhythm that soothes those who wander within. Pause once more. Imagine yourself sitting beside a small pool, its water rippling with reflected leaves. A bird dips to drink, then flies upward. You hear bees hum, leaves rustle, water murmur. You close your eyes, and the sounds cradle you. Stay with me, because soon we will see how these plants were not only beautiful but meaningful. But first, rest in the soundscape, the garden itself a living instrument playing gently into the night. Now, think of meaning. To Nebuchadnezzar and Amites, to priests and citizens, each plant carried more than fragrance or shade. The cedar was strength, the pomegranate fertility, the fig abundance, the vine joy, the palm victory. Roses were love, jasmine devotion, lilies purity. To walk among the gardens was to walk among symbols, to feel nature itself speaking in quiet languages of meaning. The terraces were a library not of stone tablets, but of living leaves, each page a symbol, each branch a phrase. Pause here. Imagine yourself reading this library, tracing leaves as though they were words, smelling blossoms as though they were verses. You feel the gardens teaching you, not through speech, but through presence. Stay with me, because soon we will end our walk with nightfall. But first, let this thought linger. The hanging gardens were not only green, they were poetry. Now let the day fade. The sun lowers, shadows lengthen, blossoms close, vines rest. The air cools, stars appear, and the terraces glow in moonlight. Jasmine spills fragrance more richly at night. Roses soften, leaves silver in starlight. The city below sleeps, the river murmurs, and the gardens breathe steadily, like a living heart above the rooftops. To lie upon a terrace at night was to feel both earth and sky meet in fragrance, sound, and calm. Pause one last time. Imagine yourself lying beneath a cedar on a terrace, the stars glittering above, the scent of jasmine surrounding you, the sound of water soothing you. Your breath slows, your body grows heavy, your mind drifts. The gardens cradle you as though you belong entirely within them. And so, Chapter 13 closes. The hanging gardens were not only terraces of stone and water, they were living collections of trees, fruit, blossoms, herbs, and meanings. They were shade and food, fragrance and song, symbol and poem. In Chapter 14, we will step aside from plants to explore the labor of the gardeners themselves, those who tended and sustained this wonder day by day. For now, rest among leaves and petals, knowing the garden continues to bloom within your imagination. The hanging gardens were alive, and because they were alive, they required constant care. Unlike pyramids or statues that remain unchanged once completed, the gardens were not only built but kept every day by human hands. Without gardeners, the terraces would dry, the leaves wither, the blossoms fade. So tonight, let us step quietly into the lives of those caretakers, the unseen workers who rose each morning and climbed the terraces, tending the roots of wonder itself. Begin with dawn. The city of Babylon still lies in shadow, the river misty in early light, the streets hushed, yet in the gardens, figures already stir. Gardeners climb narrow stairways, their steps steady from habit. They carry clay jars, ropes, baskets of tools. Their garments are simple linen, cool against the skin, bound at the waist for easy movement. As the first rays of sunlight touch the terraces, they begin their work. Pause here. Imagine yourself among them, your bare feet brushing cool stone, your hands steadying a jar of water. You feel the air shift as the sun rises, warming slowly. The garden is still, waiting for your touch. Stay with me, because soon we will move through their tasks. But first, linger in this moment. The stillness before labor, the promise of life renewed with each breath. Now water must be lifted. The hanging gardens were said to contain hidden machinery, devices of wheels and chains that drew water upward from the Euphrates. Gardeners turned these wheels, their muscles straining, their rhythm steady, lifting water jar by jar, flow by flow, until the terraces drank deeply. Some pour directly into channels. Others carry jars across steps and paths, pouring gently at the roots of figs, roses, palms. Water was life, and each drop mattered. To be a gardener in Babylon was to be guardian of water. Pause again. Imagine yourself at the wheel, your hands turning wood, your body swaying with the rhythm. The chain dips into the river, rises, empties into a trough. You hear the soft rush, see the stream glitter, and know that trees above will drink. Stay with me, because soon we will climb higher. But first, feel the weight of water, the rhythm of lifting, the gift of flow. Now, pruning begins. Gardeners carry small bronze tools, shears shaped for cutting branches, knives for trimming vines. They move carefully, never rushing, for each cut matters. They trim fig branches heavy with leaves, guiding their growth. They prune grapevines, ensuring air and light reach fruit. They shape roses, encouraging blossoms to unfold more richly. Each cut is both discipline and devotion, shaping chaos into harmony. Pause here. Imagine holding shears, the bronze warm in your palm. You lean toward a vine, snip gently, and the tendril falls away. The plant breathes easier. The fruit glimmers in sunlight. You feel calm, knowing your touch has helped life flourish. Stay with me, because soon we will hear the gardener's voices. But first, listen to the silence of trimming, the rhythm of care, the whisper of leaves responding to touch. Now planting. Soil must be renewed, terraces replenished. Gardeners carry baskets of rich earth, mixed with straw, manure, and clay, balanced on shoulders. They dig small holes, place seeds or young shoots, cover gently, press firmly. They plant herbs in corners, fruit trees in wider spaces, blossoms along edges. Each planting is a promise, a future beauty sown in present labor. Pause again. Imagine kneeling to press soil around a young fig shoot. The earth crumbles in your fingers, soft and fragrant. You pat it gently, as though tucking it in, whispering a quiet hope that it will thrive. Stay with me, because soon we will see how gardeners live beyond their labor. But first, breathe in the earthy fragrance, the weight of planting, the patience of growth. Now, consider the gardeners as people. They were not kings or scribes, yet they were closer to the wonder than anyone. Day after day, they touched the roots, the leaves, the blossoms. They knew the sound of each water channel, the weight of each tree's thirst, the scent of each flower at dawn. They likely spoke to one another in soft voices as they worked, sharing news of families, stories of gods, laughter, sighs. Perhaps they even sang, their voices weaving with the hum of bees, the trickle of water. To keep the gardens alive was not only duty, it was life itself. Pause here. Imagine yourself pausing in shade, wiping your brow with cloth, hearing another gardener hum a slow song nearby. You smile, your body tired yet steady, your heart quiet with belonging. Stay with me, because soon we will follow them into evening. But first, rest here in the warmth of companionship. The gardens not only tended but shared. Now, as the sun lowers, shadows lengthen across terraces. Gardeners descend slowly, their baskets emptied, their jars stacked, their tools cleaned. They wash hands and feet in basins, their skin marked with soil and water. Some carry figs or herbs home as gifts for families. Others linger a moment longer, looking back at the terraces, watching leaves shimmer in the last light. They know tomorrow they will return, and the day after, and the day after that. Their labor never ends, but neither does the wonder they guard. Pause once more. Imagine yourself standing at the garden's edge at dusk, your hands still tinged with earth, your body tired, your mind calm. You see the terraces glowing in sunset, and you know your work has given life. Stay with me, because soon we will let night cover the gardens. But first, hold this moment of completion, of labor fulfilled. Now let night fall. Lamps glow in courtyards, torches flicker on terraces, stars rise above. The gardens breathe quietly, watered, pruned, planted. Birds nest in branches, bees rest in hives, blossoms close gently. The gardeners lie in their homes, bodies heavy with sleep, hearts soothed by the rhythm of work. The terraces stand silent, yet alive, tended by unseen hands. glowing softly under moonlight. Pause one last time. Imagine yourself lying on a mat, your body aching from labor, but your spirit at peace. The scent of soil clings to your hands. The memory of blossoms lingers in your breath. You drift into sleep, knowing the gardens will greet you again at dawn. And so, Chapter 14 closes. The hanging gardens were not merely royal displays. They were living works shaped daily by the devotion of gardeners. Without them, no water would flow, no fig would ripen, no rose would bloom. In Chapter 15, we will turn to the myths and legends that grew around the gardens, stories told and retold, shaping memory as richly as soil shaped roots. For now, rest in gratitude for the unseen caretakers, whose labor lifted beauty into the sky. The hanging gardens lived not only in stone and soil, but in story. For centuries, travelers, poets, and historians spoke of them, weaving descriptions that became legends. These stories, embroidered with imagination, carried the gardens across time, even as their physical traces disappeared. Tonight, let us wander through these myths and legends, softly unraveling how words gave life to what may have vanished in earth. Begin with the tale of love. The most enduring legend says that King Nebuchadnezzar built the gardens for his queen, Amytis of Media. She came from the green mountains, where pine trees clothed the slopes and meadows bloomed with wildflowers. In Babylon, the land was flat and hot, the horizon wide and bare. Amytis longed for the mountains of her youth, for the scent of cedars, the cool streams, the green valleys. To comfort her, Nebuchadnezzar raised terraces of stone and planted them with trees, blossoms, and vines, so that from her palace she could look upon a mountain built of green. Pause here. Imagine Amytis standing at a palace window, her eyes weary from desert dust, her heart aching for the hills of home. And then one morning, she sees rising terraces, palms swaying, cedars lifting, vines curling. Her breath catches, her sorrow softens. She smiles and the story begins. Stay with me, because soon we will hear how ancient writers preserved this legend. But first, linger with the image of a queen comforted by love made into living stone and leaf. Now, listen to Berossus, a Babylonian priest writing in Greek in the 3rd century BC. He spoke of the gardens, attributing them to Nebuchadnezzar, saying they were built to resemble the mountains of Media, to please the king's consort. His words were not only history but tenderness, carrying forward the idea that love itself could build a wonder. Other writers echoed him: Diodorus, Strabo, Philo of Byzantium. They told of terraces, arches, vaults, water machines, and always the reason Amytis and her longing for green. Pause again. Imagine these historians seated at their desks, scrolls before them, lamps glowing, repeating this tale with quiet wonder. They knew their readers longed not only for descriptions of stone, but for the warmth of human purpose. Love gave meaning to grandeur. Stay with me, because soon we will explore other legends, some shifting the gardens to another city altogether. But first, breathe in this tale of devotion, the gardens as a gift of comfort. Now, consider another version. Some scholars argue the gardens were not in Babylon at all, but in Nineveh, capital of Assyria. They say it was Sennacherib, not Nebuchadnezzar, who built them, creating aqueducts and waterworks to sustain them. They point to inscriptions describing terraced gardens, watered by channels, shaded by fruit trees. In these stories, the wonder belongs to Assyria, not Babylon. The legend shifts, moves northward, carried by translation and retelling. Pause here. Imagine yourself hearing this story from a different traveler, one who insists the gardens were in Nineveh. You tilt your head, surprised, but then you realize it changes little. The vision remains. Terraces of green, lifted above city walls, watered by clever hands. The legend bends, yet it endures. Stay with me, because soon we will drift through Greek imaginations of the gardens. But first, let this thought linger. Truth may shift, but beauty remains. Now, enter the Greek world. For them, the hanging gardens were marvels not only of engineering, but of philosophy. They embodied the union of techne, human skill, and physis, nature's life. To build a mountain of trees in the desert was to master both art and nature. Writers like Strabo described the vaults and terraces, marveling at how roots could grow upon stone. Philo of Byzantium praised the gardens as triumphs of human craft, where plants flourish far above their natural place. For Greeks, the gardens became symbols of possibility, proof that humans could bend the earth toward harmony without violence. Pause again. Imagine yourself as a Greek student, sitting in a shaded colonnade, reading of the hanging gardens in a scroll. You close your eyes and see terraces rising, vines trailing, fountains spilling. You whisper to yourself, "This is possible. Humans can make such beauty." Stay with me, because soon we will see how later ages reimagined the gardens again. But first, rest in the Greek vision. The gardens as harmony between human and nature. Now, drift into medieval memory. Centuries later, when the seven wonders were copied into manuscripts, the hanging gardens appeared in painted margins. Artists who had never seen Babylon imagined them as castles of stone with trees on every level, more European than Mesopotamian, yet still wondrous. To them, the gardens were symbols of paradise on earth, echoes of Eden, reminders of divine abundance. The legend changed shape, fitting new eyes, new cultures, new hopes. Pause here. Imagine opening a medieval manuscript, its pages painted with bright pigments. You see a castle-like tower, with vines trailing from windows, roses blooming on balconies, fruit trees shading parapets. You smile, knowing the artist had never seen Babylon, but you feel the dream intact. Stay with me, because soon we will hear how the garden survived even into our modern minds. But first, linger with this medieval vision, glowing like stained glass, timeless in its wonder. Now, consider how legends grow by absence. Unlike the pyramids, no ruins of the hanging gardens remained to anchor the story. Their absence became a canvas, a space for imagination. Each generation filled that space differently. Babylonians with Amytas, Greeks with engineering marvels, medieval monks with castles, modern historians with speculation. The garden became less a place and more a story, adaptable, eternal. Pause again. Imagine yourself telling a child a story of the hanging gardens. You do not know exactly where they stood or what grew upon them, but you speak of terraces, trees, water, and beauty. The child's eyes widen, and the gardens bloom anew. Stay with me, because soon we will close this chapter with nightfall. But first, breathe in the power of story itself, the way it waters memory like rivers through dry earth. Now, let the night fall upon Babylon once more. The city sleeps, the river murmurs, the gardens glimmer in moonlight. Amytas lies dreaming of her mountains, comforted by terraces raised for her. Historians copy scrolls, their lamps flickering, words flowing. Monks paint manuscripts, their brushes trailing color, castles sprouting vines. And you lie here listening, your own mind weaving blossoms and terraces in silence. The gardens live again in you. Pause one last time. Imagine yourself walking slowly through the terraces in dream, hearing stories whisper with every leaf. Each tale is true, because each is love, memory, or vision. And so, chapter 15 closes. The hanging garden survived not in stone, but in stories, legends layered upon legends, each retelling watering their roots in human memory. In chapter 16, we will turn gently to Babylon's daily life beyond palaces and gardens, exploring how ordinary people live beside the extraordinary. For now, let your mind rest, knowing the gardens bloom in every story told, including the one we have just shared. The hanging gardens may have crowned Babylon, but below them, life unfolded in countless ordinary ways. To understand the wonder fully, we must also walk to the streets and homes of the city's people, those who live in its shadow, who fetched water from its canals, who worked in its markets, who rested on rooftops at night. For every terrace of roses and palms, there were hundreds of courtyards where bread baked, lamps flickered, and voices mingled. Tonight, let us wander through the daily life of Babylon, soft and unhurried, as though we were guests at every threshold. Begin in the morning. The sun rises over Euphrates, its light softening the mist on the water. Fishermen launch boats, their oars dipping rhythmically, their nets trailing into the river's current. On the banks, women kneel to wash clothes, their hands beating rhythm into linen, their laughter carrying over the water. Children chase each other along the edge, their sandals slipping, their voices high with joy. The river is not only water. It is a city's pulse, feeding fields, turning wheels, carrying boats heavy with grain and figs. Pause here. Imagine yourself sitting on the bank at dawn, the cool mist brushing your skin, the sound of oars steady, the scent of wet reeds filling the air. You feel the city awakening around you, not in grandeur, but in warmth. Stay with me, because soon we will step into the markets. But first, linger with the river, the source of Babylon's life, moving calm and endless. Now, walk toward the markets as morning unfolds. Stalls rise beneath awnings of woven cloth. Traders set out jars of oil, baskets of dates, boats of linen dyed in rich hues. Voices call softly, offering spices, bread, honey, clay bowls, copper tools. Donkeys shuffle, their backs laden with goods. The air thickens with fragrance. Cumin, coriander, cinnamon brought from distant lands, mingling with the sweetness of figs and the smoke of roasting meat. Here, the city breathes with commerce, each exchange a thread in its vast fabric. Pause again. Imagine yourself pausing at a stall, the merchant offering a fig, its skin splitting to reveal ruby seeds. You taste, the juice cool and sweet, and you smile, grateful for the simple abundance of the day. Stay with me, because soon we will step into homes. But first, let the market hum around you, voices rising and falling like waves, soft and steady. Now, enter a neighborhood where narrow lanes wind between mud brick walls. Doors open into courtyards, shaded by vines, cooled by jars of water resting in shadows. Families gather for meals, bread torn by hand, dipped in oil, shared with lentils and onions. Children play in corners, shaping small clay animals, their laughter echoing. Grandmothers sit by hearths, grinding grain with steady hands, humming songs older than memory. The hanging gardens may be visible above, but here, the gardens are small pots of herbs on ledges, or vines creeping along walls, or fig trees shading rooftops. Ordinary beauty, close and dear. Pause here. Imagine yourself sitting in one of these courtyards, the floor cool beneath you, the bread warm in your hands. A clay jug of water stands nearby, its surface damp with coolness. You drink and feel life simple, steady, unhurried. Stay with me, because soon we will walk toward the temples. But first, rest in this courtyard, the heartbeat of ordinary Babylon. Now, approach the temples, where citizens come with offerings. Priests chant prayers, burn incense, pour libations. The air is fragrant with cedar smoke, the sound of drums low and steady. Statues of God stand tall, their forms clothed in gold and bright cloth. People whisper prayers for health, for children, for rain, for peace. Religion is not distant. It is woven into every act, every season. The ziggurat rises above, its stairways climbing to heaven, its shadow stretching across the city. For ordinary Babylonians, the divine is everywhere. In the river's flow, in the rising sun, in the garden's blossoms. Pause again. Imagine yourself standing among them, the incense curling upward, the chants echoing in stone halls. You close your eyes, breathe deeply, and feel yourself part of the city's devotion. Stay with me, because soon we will let night fall. But first, linger in the sacred, where wonder is not only seen in gardens, but felt in hearts. Now, let the day soften into evening. Families climb to rooftops as the air cools, spreading mats, sharing final meals. Lamps glow, casting warm circles of light. The sound of flutes drifts from a neighbor's courtyard, mingling with distant laughter. Stars appear one by one, above the walls, and the gardens shimmer faintly in moonlight, visible even from humble rooftops. For ordinary people, the gardens are not places they enter, but sights they cherish, symbols of their city's pride. They glance upward, smile softly, and then return to their bread, their children, their stories. Pause once more. Imagine yourself lying on a rooftop mat, the air cooling, the stars bright, the gardens glowing faintly on the horizon. Your body is heavy, your spirit calm, your mind at ease. Stay with me, because soon we will close this chapter. But first, Feel how wonder flows into ordinary life, not separate from it, but woven through it like threads and cloth. And so, chapter 16 closes. Daily life in Babylon was full of markets and meals, courtyards and prayers, rooftops and laughter. Against this background, the hanging gardens rose, not as isolated marvels, but as companions to ordinary rhythms. They belonged not only to kings and queens, but to the city itself, to fishermen, bakers, mothers, children, priests. In chapter 17, we will climb once more into the terraces, this time imagining the festivals and celebrations that may have unfolded within their shade. For now, rest in the hum of daily life, where beauty glows quietly in every corner. The hanging gardens may have been places of daily labor and quiet walks, but they were also spaces where celebrations unfolded. Just as Babylon's avenues filled with festivals during the year, the terraces themselves must have echoed at times with music, laughter, prayers, and feasting. Tonight, let us wander into those imagined moments, when the gardens were not only silent wonders, but living stages for joy. Begin with the rhythm of the year. In Babylon, the New Year festival, Akitu, was among the most important. It marked the renewal of time, the turning of seasons, the reaffirmation of kingship. Citizens filled the processional way. Priests carried statues of gods. The king led ceremonies. In the midst of these grand rituals, the hanging gardens may have served as private sanctuaries for gatherings of nobles, priests, or perhaps even the royal family itself. Terraces blooming with spring flowers, watered by recent floods, would have glistened in celebration, their fragrance mixing with incense from temples. Pause here. Imagine yourself climbing the terraces on such a day, your steps surrounded by people dressed in their finest linen, jewelry glittering, voices soft yet full of anticipation. The air hums with drums and flutes from the city below, but here above, the sounds are softened by leaves. Stay with me, because soon we will sit within one of these feasts. But first, let us stand at the edge of a terrace, looking down at Babylon filled with music, smoke, and devotion. Now, picture a royal feast within the gardens. Long tables of carved are spread with bread, figs, roasted meats, pomegranates split open to reveal glistening seeds. Jars of wine rest in cool shadows, their clay damp, their scent rich. Servants move quietly, pouring, offering, carrying. Guests recline on cushions, their voices mingling with the sound of fountains. Musicians pluck lyres, strike small drums, blow pipes, their songs floating through air heavy with jasmine and roses. Laughter rises, gentle, unhurried. The terraces glow with torches, their light dancing on leaves, their smoke curling upward. Pause again. Imagine yourself reclining on one of these cushions, your fingers brushing embroidered fabric, your plate filled with figs and warm bread. You sip wine, taste its sweetness, hear music blending with water trickling nearby. You smile softly, feeling not only fed but embraced by beauty. Stay with me, because soon we will follow the music deeper. But first, linger with this feast, this blending of food, fragrance, sound, and company. Now, consider the dancers. In Babylonian festivals, dancers often accompanied music, their movements slow and patterned, gestures echoing the rhythm of drums. In the gardens, imagine them weaving between columns, their garments flowing like water, their bracelets jingling softly. They raise their arms, lower them, spin gently, their movements echoing the swaying of palm fronds above. The audience watches, hushed yet delighted, as if the gardens themselves are dancing, each step mirroring the rustling of leaves. Pause here. Imagine yourself watching a dancer pass by, her feet bare against a stone, her garment brushing roses, her bracelets shimmering in torchlight. You feel calm, your breath slowing, as though the rhythm has entered your own body. Stay with me, because soon we will let the night grow deeper. But first, watch the dancers move, their steps weaving with shadows and blossoms. Now, turn to prayer. Feasts were not only about joy, they were also offerings to gods. Priests may have ascended the terraces, carrying incense burners, their smoke rising into the night sky. They poured libations of wine, placed loaves of bread at small altars hidden among trees, chanted hymns to Ishtar, Marduk, or Ea. The gardens themselves, with water flowing and trees rising, were temples of nature, sanctuaries where devotion felt close at hand. To pray here was to stand between earth and sky, surrounded by life raised by human skill, yet filled with divine breath. Pause again. Imagine kneeling by a small altar on a terrace, the air fragrant with cedar smoke, the stars shining above, the leaves whispering around you. You bow your head, your heart steady, your spirit quiet. Stay with me, because soon we will follow the festival into its quieter hours. But first, breathe in this prayerful stillness, this harmony of nature and devotion. Now let the celebration soften. The feast grows quieter. The dancers rest. The music slows to gentle strums. Guests speak in low voices, sipping the last of wine, sharing stories of ancestors, gods, journeys, and dreams. Some walk along the terraces, pausing to look at the city glowing below, its torches flickering along the processional way, its ziggurat looming, its river glimmering silver. Others lean back, their eyes half closed, listening to fountains murmur. The hanging gardens, so alive with sound an hour ago, now cradle the party into calm, like a lullaby after laughter. Pause here. Imagine yourself walking alone to the edge of the terrace, the feast behind you, the city before you. The air is cool, scented with jasmine, filled with soft music fading into night. You breathe slowly, deeply, feeling full in body and soul. Stay with me, because soon we will let sleep settle upon the city. But first, savor this moment of quiet abundance. Now imagine the city below. Citizens who were not part of the palace feast also celebrated in their own ways. Families gathered on rooftops, playing music of their own, telling stories, pouring drinks, offering prayers. From the palace terraces, one could hear the faint echoes of these smaller celebrations, the laughter and song rising like distant stars. The gardens, though high and royal, belonged in spirit to all, because every Babylonian could look up and see them glowing in torchlight, symbols of their city's pride. Pause once more. Imagine yourself lying on a rooftop with neighbors, hearing the faint echo of music drifting from the hanging gardens above. You smile, knowing the wonder belongs to you as much as to kings. Stay with me, because soon we will let night fully claim the gardens. But first, hold this sense of belonging, of wonder shared by all. Now let the night deepen. The torches burn low. The musicians set aside their lyres. The dancers sleep. The terraces lie in moonlight, their leaves silver, their fountains whispering. The city rests, its festival done, its people soothed. Only the gardens remain awake, their branches swaying softly, their blossoms fragrant, their waters flowing. They are timeless, cradling both feast and silence, both laughter and prayer. Pause one last time. Imagine yourself lying back on a cushion, eyes closing, hearing only water and leaves, feeling the warmth of the day fade into the cool of night. You drift into sleep, carried by the memory of music and the hush of gardens. And so, chapter 17 closes. The hanging gardens were not only monuments of stone and water, they were also theaters of celebration where food, music, dance, and prayer wove together into nights of wonder. In chapter 18, we will step gently into another rhythm, the stories of travelers who claimed to see the gardens with their own eyes, and how they carried those visions across lands and centuries. For now, let the music fade, let the torches dim, and let your heart rest in the garden's quiet joy. The hanging gardens may or may not have stood in stone, but they lived vividly in the words of travelers and writers. For centuries, people who claimed to have seen them or who repeated the stories of others carried descriptions across lands and ages. Their accounts, varied and colorful, became threads in the tapestry of memory that has kept the gardens alive long after they may have vanished. Tonight, let us sit with these travelers and storytellers, listening to voices that echoed through time. Begin with Berossus, a Babylonian priest of the 3rd century BC. He wrote in Greek for foreign readers, shaping Babylon's image for the Hellenistic world. His words told of Nebuchadnezzar building the gardens for Amytis, his queen from the mountains. Berossus described terraces planted with trees of many kinds, raised high above the earth, watered with skill. He was not an outsider. He was Babylonian, yet writing for outsiders. His account bridged cultures, ensuring the gardens were remembered not only at home but abroad. Pause here. Imagine Berossus at his desk, a clay lamp flickering, his reed pen scratching across a scroll. Outside, the Euphrates flows, and above, stars scatter across the sky. He writes not only history, but pride. Pride in Babylon's wonders, pride in its king. His words travel far, carried to readers who will never step upon the terraces themselves. Stay with me, because soon we will listen to Greek voices. But first, linger with Berossus, the priest who gave Babylon's marvels to the world beyond its walls. Now, hear Diodorus Siculus, a Greek historian of the 1st century BC. He wrote of the gardens with detail. Terraces built upon arches, layers of soil thick enough for great trees, irrigation machines raising water high above the ground. His descriptions are vivid, so vivid that one feels he must have spoken with someone who claimed to have seen them. Yet he himself never walked the streets of Babylon. He wrote from stories, perhaps from earlier texts, perhaps from travelers. His gardens may have been second-hand, but they became first in memory. Pause again. Imagine yourself reading Diodorus's words in a quiet library centuries later. You have never seen Babylon, but his images burn clear. Arches, terraces, fountains, trees rising like a mountain. You close your eyes, and the gardens grow in your mind as if you were there. Stay with me, because soon we will hear from Strabo, the geographer. But first, savor Diodorus's gift, to make the unseen visible through words. Now, turn to Strabo, who wrote around the same time. A geographer, he sought to describe the known world with precision. Of the hanging gardens, he wrote of vaulted terraces, watered by screw-like machines hidden within, sustaining trees and blossoms upon layers of stone. His tone is careful, measured, yet filled with awe. He writes as if they are fact, part of the earth's wonders, a landmark no less real than mountains or rivers. In his voice, we hear both reason and wonder entwined. Pause here. Imagine Strabo bent over a map, tracing rivers and coasts, marking mountains and cities. He pauses to write of Babylon, and in his careful notes, he includes the hanging gardens. For him, they belong to geography as real as rivers. Stay with me, because soon we will wander into other echoes, less certain but no less powerful. But first, rest with Strabo's calm assurance, his steady hand placing the gardens upon the map of memory. Now, let us listen to Philo of Byzantium, who composed a list of wonders. For him, the hanging gardens were marvels of engineering, a creation where nature had been lifted above its station, trees grown in the sky, water commanded by human art. His language is not only description, but admiration. He calls the gardens a triumph, not because of their size, but because of their idea, the marriage of nature and architecture. In his words, the hanging gardens are not simply one marvel among others. They are philosophy, a vision of what humans might achieve. Pause again. Imagine Philo speaking to a group of listeners, his voice calm yet firm, describing the wonders. His words linger most when he speaks of Babylon, of trees suspended in the sky, of water defying gravity. His listeners nod, marveling not at what they have seen, but at what they now can imagine. Stay with me, because soon we will step into the voices of later travelers. But first, linger with Philo's gift, the gardens as idea, as possibility. Now drift through time. Centuries passed, yet the gardens were retold again and again. Arab scholars writing in medieval times spoke of Babylon's ruins, of ziggurats and walls, and sometimes of gardens that may have once existed. European travelers, much later, dreamed of them as symbols of paradise, of Eden restored. Some said they must have been allegory. Others swore they had once stood in Nineveh instead. The travelers themselves may have seen only ruins, but their words embroidered what was missing. Each retelling added leaves to a tree that had long since vanished. Pause here. Imagine yourself as one of these travelers, standing amid broken walls, the air dry, the earth cracked. You see no gardens, no terraces, no trees. And yet in your mind, you hear the old stories, and suddenly the ruins bloom again. You write of them, and your words keep them alive. Stay with me, because soon we will reflect on how memory and imagination mingle. But first, feel the power of a traveler's longing, seeing blossoms where none remain. Now, Consider how these accounts shaped not only memory, but identity. To the Babylonians, the gardens were pride, a monument of love and skill. To the Greeks, they were proof of human ingenuity, fitting among wonders. To later readers, they became symbols of paradise, of longing for what was lost. The travelers carried not only descriptions but meanings, shaping how each new generation understood the gardens. The absence of ruins only deepened this. For without stones to anchor them, words became the foundation. Pause again. Imagine yourself tracing these words across centuries, like stepping stones over a river. Each account different, yet each carrying you forward until the gardens bloom within you. Stay with me, because soon we will let night fall on these storytellers. But first, honor them. Without their words, the hanging gardens would be silence. Now let the night settle. Barasa sets down his pen. Diodorus closes his scroll. Strabo rolls his map. Philo finishes his lecture. Travelers fold their journals. Scribes rest their hands. Monks close their manuscripts. Lamps flicker out. Ink dries. Voices fade. Yet in the silence, the hanging gardens remain, blooming in every mind that recalls their words. The storytellers sleep, but their gardens endure, alive in memory. Pause one last time. Imagine yourself lying in that silence, hearing the faint whisper leaves not in stone, but in story. You smile, knowing you too are part of the chain of memory. And so, chapter 18 closes. The hanging garden survived not in ruins, but in the words of travelers, historians, and dreamers. Each account watered their roots anew. Each retelling let them bloom again. In chapter 19, we will step beyond the city, imagining how the gardens appeared to those approaching Babylon from far away, travelers seeing them rise above walls for the first time. For now, rest with the storytellers, whose voices still whisper in the leaves of history. To imagine the hanging gardens from within is one wonder, but to picture them from afar is another kind of marvel. Think of the weary traveler who would cross long roads, deserts, or rivers, approaching the city of Babylon after weeks beneath the unrelenting sun. To such a traveler, the first glimpse of Babylon's walls must have seemed dreamlike, and above those walls, if indeed the garden stood, a miracle of green would have crowned the horizon. Tonight, let us walk in the footsteps of those who first saw the city rise before them, the hanging gardens lifting heavenward like a promise. Begin on the road from the west. Imagine a caravan of merchants coming from the Levant, their donkeys laden with goods, their robes dusty, their sandals worn. The desert stretches endlessly behind them, the air heavy with heat. Suddenly, in the far distance, something begins to break the horizon. Not barren earth, not low villages, but massive walls glowing golden in the late sun. The closer they come, the more those walls rise, stretching outward like the body of a great beast. Towers flanking gates, and behind them, hints of something green and alive. Pause here. Imagine yourself among the caravan, your shoulders sore, your lips dry, your eyes weary. And then you see it, an emerald crown above the wall, leaves catching the light, trees swaying faintly in a breeze. You blink, unsure if it is real. A garden in the sky. You walk faster, your heart both heavy and light. Stay with me, because soon we will pass through Babylon's gates. But first, hold this vision. Life where none should be, a forest lifted high. Now, picture the traveler on the river. The Euphrates was a road of water, carrying boats upstream and down. Imagine a wooden craft gliding along, its oars dipping in rhythm, its cargo secured in woven baskets. The river bends, and suddenly Babylon comes into view. Its walls reflect in the current, the ziggurat towers above, and near the riverbank, rising terraces bloom with color. For the weary boatman, who has known reeds and barren banks for days, this sudden abundance must have seemed like paradise itself, a place where water and stone join to create wonder. Pause again. Imagine yourself upon that boat, reclining in the shade of a canvas, hearing the lap of water, and then lifting your eyes to see vines draping walls, palms swaying in tiers above. Your breath slows, your mind eases. You know you are approaching not merely a city, but the heart of a world. Stay with me, because soon we will set foot upon Babylon soil. But first, drift a little longer on this river, water shimmering, terraces glowing, your heart carried forward. Now, think of ambassadors, envoys from distant lands sent to honor Babylon's king. They would have traveled with guards, scribes, and gifts, entering the city through its monumental gates. To impress them, the hanging gardens were perhaps raised in view of processional way, visible to all who entered. Imagine their astonishment as they walked between lions carved in glazed brick, the street beneath their feet shining, and then lifted their eyes to see trees rising impossibly above stone. For them, the gardens would have been not merely decoration, but a declaration. Babylon was unlike any other city, a place where kings commanded nature itself. Pause here. Imagine yourself as one of these envoys, clutching a gift for the king, your eyes wide as you see branches sway high above the gate. You whisper to your companion, who whispers to another, until all your party is hushed with wonder. Stay with me, because soon we will step beyond the gate. But first, savor the sense of awe, of being received not just into a city, but into a vision. Now, let us turn to soldiers and pilgrims. Not all who approached Babylon came with peace. Some armies camped outside its walls, their tents stretching across the plain, their campfires glowing at night. For them, the hanging gardens may have been glimpsed with envy or longing, green crowns visible even beyond fortifications. They may have whispered to one another, behind those walls is paradise, water, shade, fruit. And so, even for those who never entered, the gardens remain powerful, symbols of plenty in the face of hunger. For pilgrims, too, journeying to Babylon's temples, the sight of greenery would have promised sanctuary, a holy abundance. Pause again. Imagine yourself sitting by a campfire, the dust of travel on your skin, and in the distance, faint outlines of trees against the torchlit wall. You sigh, dream, and let the vision carry you. Stay with me, because soon we will step into the city itself. But first, feel this longing of those who stood outside, gazing upward at a paradise beyond reach. Now let us step through the gates. The Ishtar Gate, resplendent with blue glazed bricks, lions and dragons in gold relief, open into processional way. Travelers entering here would have their senses overwhelmed. Color, size, sound. And above, if the hanging gardens were indeed nearby, their green terraces would have added another layer, a softness of leaves, a coolness of shade, a fragrance of blossoms. For the traveler who had expected only brick and stone, this blending of nature and art would seem both startling and soothing. Pause here. Imagine yourself passing under the gate, your hand brushing a glazed lion, your ears filled with echoes of footsteps and distant music. Above, branches stretch toward the sky. You breathe deeply, tasting both dust and jasmine. Stay with me, because soon we will wander deeper. But first, savor this threshold, where desert ends and marvel begins. Now, reflect on how these first impressions linger. For many travelers, their stay in Babylon may have been brief, a matter of trade, duty, or worship. Yet the vision of the hanging gardens, the shock of seeing green where it should not be, must have stayed with them long after. They returned to their homelands with tales of trees upon terraces, of rivers flowing upward, of kings who built paradise in the air. Each retelling grew the legend, until the garden became not only a sight but a story, embroidered by memory and imagination alike. Pause once more. Imagine yourself leaving Babylon, days or weeks later, your caravan moving slowly into desert. You turn once to look back, and there it is, the last glimpse of terraces rising, a patch of green above walls. You carry it with you, and in your words, it grows. Stay with me, because soon we will let night fall upon this vision. But first, hold this farewell glance, this memory glowing like an ember. Now let the night deepen, the walls darken, the gates close, torches flicker upon battlements. Yet above, the hanging gardens glow faintly in moonlight, their leaves silver, their waters whispering. Travelers camp outside, dreaming of what lies within. Merchants sleep in goose houses, envoys rest on cushions, boatmen drift in their moored crafts. And in each of them the same thought. They have seen a marvel, one they will speak of long after. The city sleeps, the gardens remain awake, eternal in their beauty. Pause one final time. Imagine yourself lying beneath the stars, the silhouette of terraces before you, the air cool, your body at rest. You close your eyes, and the gardens live within you. The hanging gardens stand at a crossroads between truth and memory, between stone that may once have risen and words that certainly did. In this chapter, let us wander into that twilight realm, where history and myth lean gently upon one another, and where the longing of generations has given the gardens a life that endures even if their bricks have long since crumbled. Begin with the question itself. Did the hanging gardens ever truly exist in Babylon? Scholars debate, voices differ, evidence remains elusive. Excavations reveal walls, vaults, aqueducts, but never with certainty enough to say, here's the garden. Some point to Nineveh, the Assyrian capital to the north, where records speak of lush terraces built by Sennacherib. Others hold to Babylon, trusting the accounts of Berossus, Diodorus, and Strabo. Still others whisper that the gardens live more in story than in soil, a dream shaped by travelers' imaginations. Pause here. Imagine yourself standing amid ruins, broken bricks underfoot, the air dry, the sun heavy. You see nothing of gardens, only dust and stone. And yet, in your mind, green rises. In that gap between earth and imagination, the gardens bloom again. Stay with me, because soon we will explore why such uncertainty comforts rather than troubles. But first, linger in the silence, where the absence of proof leaves room for wonder. Now, reflect on how myth grows from longing. In a land where summers scorch the ground and rivers both nourish and threaten, the idea of a lifted forest, cool and constant, was irresistible. To speak of such a place was to soothe, to promise that beauty and shade could be preserved even in the harshest world. The story carried comfort, and so it endured. The gardens became a mirror of desire, not merely a record of architecture. Pause again. Imagine yourself at night in ancient Babylon. Lie awake on a rooftop bed, heat still in the air, dust still clinging to your skin. And then you hear a neighbor telling a child of the gardens, where shade never fails, where water sings, where blossoms glow in torchlight. The child smiles, dreams, sleeps easily. You too feel soothed, as though the story itself has cooled the air. Stay with me, because soon we will think of how memory weaves with pride. But first, rest in this image of myth as lullaby. Now, think of national pride. Babylon was known for its walls, its ziggurat, its temples. To add the gardens to that list was to crown the city's reputation. Outsiders who came and saw, or thought they saw, were inclined to carry tales of marvels home. Over time, Babylon became not only a capital of kings, but of wonders. The gardens, whether rooted in fact or imagination, magnified that identity. For the Babylonians themselves, the story affirmed their greatness. They lived not only in a city of bricks, but in a city of marvels whispered across the earth. Pause here. Imagine yourself as a Babylonian scribe, listening to a traveler describe the gardens. You know your people are great, but hearing it told by another fills you with quiet pride. You smile, not correcting, not questioning. You let the tale stand because it honors the city, and because sometimes beauty lies in what is believed. Stay with me, because soon we will let philosophy guide us. But first, savor this pride, this sense of belonging to a city remembered as more than walls. Now, let us drift into philosophy. Perhaps the truth of the hanging gardens lies not in whether they stood, but in what they mean. They embody the human yearning to raise nature into art, to blend water and stone, soil and architecture, until the boundary between creation and creation blurs. They are reminders that humans, restless and dreaming, forever seek to make paradise here on earth. And whether Nebuchadnezzar's hands, Sennacherib's builders, or the pens of Greek historians gave them life, the gardens represent that eternal impulse. Pause again. Imagine yourself walking among today's gardens in your own world. Parks, terraces, arboretums. You feel the same soothing blend of nature and human care. You realize the hanging gardens live on, not only in ruins or stories, but in every act of planting, every fountain, every shaded path built by human hands. Stay with me, because soon we will see how memory outlives stone. But first, breathe into this realization. The gardens are not gone if they are planted again and again. Now, return to the accounts. Berossus wrote with pride, Diodorus with detail, Strabo with care, Philo with admiration, each voice layered upon the others, until the gardens were more certain in memory than they might ever have been in soil. The absence of ruins has not weakened the legend. It has strengthened it, for imagination rushes to fill every gap. In this way, the Hanging Gardens exist more powerfully than monuments whose stones still stand. They are alive in minds, not only in museums. Pause once more. Imagine yourself in a library, a scroll before you, the description vivid though the earth lies silent. You read, and in your mind, water flows, vines sway, torches flicker. You close your eyes and the garden breathes. Stay with me, because soon we will let night claim this meditation. But first, honor the storytellers who built with words what stone could not preserve. Now let the night deepen. The ruins lie quiet, owls glide above, stars scatter across the dark. Yet within every heart that recalls the tale, terraces rise again. The Hanging Gardens, whether myth or memory, endure because they are needed as comfort, as pride, as vision. They soothe the weary, inspire the dreamer, honor the city, and remind all that beauty may live beyond stone. Pause one final time. Imagine yourself resting upon a cushion, the story of the gardens in your ears, your eyes closing, your breath steady. They are real for you, as real as sleep, as real as the dream you are about to enter. And so, Chapter 20 closes. In the uncertainty of history, the Hanging Gardens have found a home more lasting than stone, the human imagination. In Chapter 21, we will walk into gardens as they live today, in paintings, stories, and recreations across the world, to see how they continue to inspire. For now, rest in this twilight, where myth and truth entwine like vines across a terrace wall, whispering softly as night deepens. The Hanging Gardens have never faded from memory, even though their stones may have disappeared long ago. Instead, they live on through art, literature, and imagination across centuries. In this chapter, let us walk gently through the ways of gardens that continue to bloom in human culture, reborn in brushstrokes, poems, and dreams, each one a new terrace of memory. Begin with the ancient scribes who copied accounts. Long after Babylon itself had declined, monks and scholars preserved Greek and Roman writings. Each hand that traced the words of Diodorus or Strabo gave the gardens a new season of life. Imagine the quiet scriptoria of medieval monasteries, the scratching of pens upon parchment, lamps flickering low. The gardens bloomed again each time a scribe carefully shaped letters, each sentence another seed planted in history. Pause here. Imagine yourself as one of these scribes, bent over a manuscript. The night still, the lamps glow warm. You have never seen Babylon, but as you write, arches rise in your mind, water flows upward, vines drape terraces. You smile softly, soothed by the thought that you are helping beauty endure. Stay with me, because soon we will turn to artists who painted what they never saw. But first, linger with this image of the gardens growing in ink across a page. Now, step into the Renaissance, when Europe rediscovered the ancient world. Artists filled canvases with imagined visions of Babylon. They painted Nebuchadnezzar's court, Amytas walking among blossoms, terraces stacked high with cypress and palm. Their cities of stone were fanciful, more European than Mesopotamian, but the intent was clear, to give form to wonder. In these paintings, waterfalls cascaded from impossible heights, arches framed endless greenery. Kings and queens reclined upon embroidered cushions. The Hanging Gardens became not only history but theater, a stage for imagination. Pause again. Imagine yourself gazing upon one of these paintings. Colors rich, leaves vibrant, towers rising. You know it is not exact, perhaps not even true, but you feel soothed all the same. For here is proof that beauty transcends accuracy. It lives in vision. Stay with me, because soon we will wander into poetry. But first, breathe with this painted vision, a garden eternal in oil and brush. Now turn to poets. From the Middle Ages through the Romantic era, verses spoke of Babylon and its marvels. The Hanging Garden became metaphors for love, longing, paradise lost and regained. One poet compared his beloved's beauty to the terraces. Another saw in the gardens a symbol of human ambition, forever reaching upward. In their words, The gardens became more than place. They became feeling, a shorthand for wonder. Each rhyme, each rhythm watered the story anew, ensuring that long after stones had turned to dust, blossoms still unfurled in language. Pause here. Imagine yourself reading such a poem aloud, your voice low, the cadence slow. You feel the terraces rise with each syllable, the vines sway with each breath. You close your eyes, and the words themselves are leaves curling around your heart. Stay with me, because soon we will enter the modern world. But first, savor this quiet moment, poetry as garden. Now, drift into the 19th century, when archaeology brought new excitement. Travelers and scholars explored Mesopotamia's ruins, digging, sketching, speculating. They stood in dust, yet spoke of terraces. Newspapers carried reports, magazines sketched fanciful images, and once more the gardens lived. Even when ruins failed to reveal certainty, imagination filled the gaps. Babylon became not just a story of conquest, but of marvels lost, and the hanging gardens, though unseen, were chief among them. Pause again. Imagine yourself in that century, holding a newspaper etched with sketches of ziggurats and imagined gardens. You trace the lines with your finger, your mind wandering across deserts and rivers, until green terraces rise before you. You feel both wonder and longing. Stay with me, because soon we will step into the 20th century, when films and books renewed the story. But first, savor this Victorian imagination, this blend of dust and dream. Now, enter the age of cinema. Filmmakers, eager to evoke ancient worlds, often place the hanging gardens in their sets. Palaces of Nebuchadnezzar gleamed with painted arches. Waterfalls poured from stage machinery. Actors walked among palm trees rising from plaster terraces. Audiences watched in awe, not questioning authenticity, but surrendering to spectacle. In their eyes, for a brief span of minutes, the gardens lived again, lush and grand. Pause here. Imagine yourself in a darkened theater of that time, the screen glowing, the hanging garden sprawling across it. Music swells, actors gesture, water glitters. You sit back, eyes heavy, letting yourself drift into a dream of ancient wonder. Stay with me, because soon we will wander into our present, where the gardens live still. But first, rest in the cinematic glow, soft and shimmering. Now, arrive in the present day. The hanging gardens live in children's books, in classroom lessons, in documentaries narrated with gentle voices. They appear in novels, sometimes as settings, sometimes as metaphors for unreachable dreams. They exist in digital art, glowing across screens, waterfalls rendered in pixels, terraces climbing into virtual skies. Architects borrow inspiration, raising green walls, vertical gardens, rooftop terraces in cities of glass and steel. The gardens are no longer bound to Babylon alone. They belong to all who seek beauty amid stone. Pause once more. Imagine yourself standing in a modern city, tall towers surrounding you, and there, among them, a rooftop garden blooms, trees swaying in wind, flowers opening in sun. You smile, recognizing the echo. The hanging gardens live here too. Stay with me, because soon we will let night gather around all these visions. But first, hold this realization. The gardens endure not because they stood, but because they are still needed. Now let the night deepen. The paintings grow dim in museums. The scrolls rest in libraries. The poems lie closed in books. Films fade into quiet reels. Documentaries end, classrooms empty. Yet in dreams, the gardens remain. You close your eyes, and there they are, terraces glowing in torchlight, water falling softly, vines whispering in night air. They are both ancient and modern, both lost and alive. They live not in one city, not in one age, but in every heart that longs for beauty lifted high. Pause one final time. Imagine yourself lying beneath your own ceiling, hearing only your breath, and yet above you in your mind, terraces bloom. You rest easy, for you are part of their story. And so, chapter 21 closes. Across ages, the hanging gardens have endured in art, poetry, film, architecture, and imagination. They live not as ruins, but as vision, blooming wherever beauty is remembered and rebuilt. In chapter 22, we will end our journey gently, letting the story taper into sleep, inviting you to carry the gardens with you into dreams. For now, rest in the knowledge that wonder endures, wherever words and visions keep it alive. Our journey has carried us across deserts and rivers, through terraces and feasts, across centuries of memory and imagination. Now, as we close, let us rest in the quiet heart of the Hanging Gardens, whether they stood in stone or live only in story, because in the end, their purpose is the same: to soothe, to inspire, to offer beauty where the world is harsh. This last chapter is not about questions or debates, but about letting the story itself dissolve into calm, like water fading into night. Begin with the garden at dusk. The sun lowers behind Babylon's walls. The skies soften from gold to violet. The terraces glow in the last light, their leaves shimmering, their fountains reflecting silver. Birds settle among branches, their songs quieter, slower. Servants move with care, trimming lamps, straightening cushions, carrying jugs of cool water. The gardens, which all day have thrummed with life, now breathe out, releasing the heat, welcoming stillness. Pause here. Imagine yourself walking along a terrace at this hour. The air is warm but soft. The stones cool underfoot. You breathe in the fragrance of jasmine. Taste faint sweetness in the breeze. You stop at the edge, gazing over the city, and see torches beginning to glow along streets. You feel a gentle pride, but more than that, you feel ease. Stay with me, because soon we will walk deeper into the night. But first, linger with this dusk, where everything slows, where nothing is hurried. Now let night arrive. Lamps are lit along the terraces, their flames small but steady. Shadows play upon leaves. Vines curl in silhouettes against stone. The fountains whisper more clearly in the quiet, their streams catching lamplight, scattering it in soft glimmers. Guests recline on cushions, but their voices are hushed, their laughter gentle. The feast is done, the music soft. All that remains is the comfort being here, safe within walls, high within gardens, embraced by night. Pause again. Imagine yourself lying back upon a cushion, fabric cool against your skin, a lamp flickering nearby. You close your eyes for a moment, hearing only water and the faint rustle of leaves. You breathe slowly, deeply, and the world outside these walls fades away. Stay with me, because soon we will let the stars appear. But first, savor the soft stillness, this gentle hush. Now, lift your eyes upward. The stars scatter across the sky, bright and endless. From the terraces, they seem nearer, as though the gardens have lifted you closer to the heavens. The moon rises, silver and calm, its light mingling with torchlight, its glow washing over blossoms. Shadows stretch long and soft, making every leaf shimmer, every arch gleam faintly. In this mingling of moonlight and lamp, the gardens become dreamlike, less of earth, more story. Pause here. Imagine yourself gazing upward, your breath in rhythm with the stars. Each blink slower, each thought gentler. You feel the nearness of night, the promise of sleep. Stay with me, because soon we will let the city rest as well. But first, bathe in this silver glow, a gift of sky and stone. Now think of the city below. Babylon's streets are quiet, its processional way empty, its ziggurat dark against the sky. Families sleep on rooftops, their dreams touched by faint breezes. Merchants rest after long days. Priests lie upon woven mats. Children curl beside parents. The city breathes as one, slow and deep, its vast body stilled. Above, the hanging gardens are both crown and cradle, watching, protecting, soothing. For the city, they are symbol. For the dreamer, they are sanctuary. Pause again. Imagine yourself part of the city, lying on a rooftop bed, seeing the terraces above, glowing faintly in moonlight. You sigh softly, letting the sight ease your mind. Stay with me, because soon we will let all fade into dream. But first, hold this connection. One city, one garden, one breath. Now let imagination stretch. The hanging gardens, whether they stood in brick or only in story, belong not just to Babylon, but to all who dream of beauty in unlikely places. They are gardens of longing, of comfort, of vision. They rise wherever people seek to lift nature into art, wherever water is guided upward, wherever green crowns stone. They rise in your mind now, Terraces of calm, arches of quiet, waterfalls of memory. In them, you find not proof, but peace. Pause once more. Imagine yourself planting a seed in soil. With patience, it grows, reaching upward, leaf upon leaf. In that small act, the hanging gardens live again. You realize they need no ruins. They live wherever beauty is cared for. Stay with me, because soon we will let the story close. But first, rest in this knowledge. The gardens bloom within you. Now, let the night complete itself. The fountains slow, the lamps burn low, the city sleeps. The terraces are empty of voices, but full of whispers. Whispers of leaves, of water, of story. And in those whispers, you hear all we have traveled together. Feasts and dancers, travelers and poets, myths and memories. They gather gently, not as burdens, but as lullabies. Each detail is another petal, another leaf, forming a crown of calm around your mind. Pause one final time. Imagine yourself lying upon the highest terrace, stars above, city below, breath steady. You close your eyes, and the gardens rise not outside but within. They are yours forever, whenever you need them. And so, chapter 22 closes. The hanging gardens have carried us through history, myth, art, and imagination, only to return us here, in this quiet moment, safe and unhurried. Their story does not end. It simply changes form, from words into dreams. As you drift, know that the gardens remain with you, soft and eternal. And when you wake, they will still bloom in memory, inviting you back whenever you wish. If your eyes are heavy now, let them close. If your breath is slow, let it guide you deeper. The hanging gardens are waiting in your dreams, their fountains whispering, their vines curling, their torches glowing faintly in night air. Sleep well and let wonder keep you.